Chapter 77. Hey, it's so boring to just drink like this. Qin Lei suddenly stood up and cupped his fists. He smiled and said, "Why don't we remove the table in the middle and use martial arts to make friends? Brother Feng, we haven't sparred in a long time, right? Sparring here?" Feng Jixing was stunned. He smiled and said, "I don't think that's a good idea. Today is the Lunar New Year's Eve festival. We have to be friendly." Qin Lei was impatient. "We are all martial artists. What's there to be unfriendly about? Xiaoyin, don't you think so?" The corner of Qin Yin's mouth curled up, revealing her dimples. She said, "Since we're going to compete in martial arts, we can't make a big fuss. I have a suggestion. No one is allowed to summon their martial spirits. Once they do, they'll lose. Also, martial arts is too dangerous." "Sword duel?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Qin Yin smiled and nodded. "Yes, we will only compete in swordsmanship." "How about that?" Feng Jixing said, "That's good. Swordsmanship is the most important of the 6 martial arts. Let's compete in swordsmanship. It won't hurt our friendship. Hee, my swordsmanship is only third-rate. I hope that everyone will give in to me." Qin Lei, Feng Jixing, Chu Huayin, and the others were all high-ranking soldiers. Their main weapons were spears, sabers, and other long-handled weapons. However, everyone had a sword. This was a must. The attendants quickly removed the table in the middle, leaving an empty space. Feng Jixing leaped up, and with a kong, he pulled out the shiny long sword at his waist. With a light flick of his wrist, a sword flower appeared, and he said with a smile, Come. Who wants to have a taste of this Feng's mediocre sword art?" Chu Huayin laughed and walked over. He slowly pulled out his sword and cupped his fists. "Brother Feng, let's have a taste." "Hey!" Feng Jixing took the initiative to attack. His long sword was surging with battle energy, and the blade of the sword swept out 3 times in a row. Chu Huaying's swordsmanship was more gentle, and he gently avoided Feng Jixing's attack. Then he counterattacked. Feng Jixing quickly blocked. The 2 of them passed by each other, and their swords had already collided 7 times. Fortunately, both of them had restrained their do qi. Otherwise, the sword qi alone would have turned this place into a mess. Chu Yao looked at the 2 of them fighting and clapped her hands with a smile. "Big brother, you can do it." Feng Jixing's laughter could be heard. "Your brother's swordsmanship is so clumsy. How can he cheer?" Ding! Amidst the sound of the sword, Chu Huaying quickly retreated with his long sword. He slid back a few meters on the floor and hit the wall. There was a trace of shock on his face. He raised his head and smiled. "Brother Feng, you fell into your trap again." Feng Jixing's swordsmanship had a soft edge to it, and it was this soft edge that had defeated Chu Huaying. "It's my turn." Qin Lei was a martial arts fanatic. He took out his sword every 2 or 3 steps and launched a series of attacks. It was obvious that his swordsmanship cultivation was far above Feng Jixing's, and he was quite methodical. After 3 to 5 rounds, Feng Jixing was already in danger. He hurriedly jumped out of the arena, cupped his fists, and said, "Commander Qin is formidable. I have learned a lot." "Ah, you admit defeat just like that?" Qin Lei was stunned. He looked as if he hadn't fought enough. He said resentfully, "I thought that your swordsmanship had improved, but I didn't expect that you were lazy and didn't learn swordsmanship at all." Feng Jixing laughed. "I specialize in the wind blade technique, not swordsmanship." Qin Lei swept his gaze around, and his gaze descended onto Lin Muyu instead as he said with a smile, "Ah, you carry a sword on your back. I presume that you're a sword user as well. Come. How about we exchange a few moves?" "Ah!" Lin Muyu was stunned. He had never thought that he would have to fight. He hurriedly shook his head and said, "There's no need. I'm just a sparring master from the Divine Palace, and my cultivation is in the Earth Realm. How can I compete with you people in the Heaven Realm?" "You?" Qin Lei's eyes widened, and he said, "Are you not giving me, Qin Lei, any face?" At the side, Tang Xiaoxi extended her hand and pushed Lin Muyu's arm. She smiled and said, "Mu is an expert. Brother Qin Lei, you have to be careful." If you lose, the entire Imperial army will lose face. Qin Lei's eyes widened. You. Lin Muyu had already been forced to do something beyond his ability. He could only stand up and step into the arena. He emphasized, "Don't use your martial soul, right? Yes, draw your sword." N. Lin Muyu stood majestically on the spot. His right hand was placed horizontally in front of his chest. Streams of qi enshrouded him, and the prairie fire sword behind him unsheathed itself with a clang. He raised his hand and grabbed it. Streams of flames appeared on the sword's blade. Good sword. What a handsome sword technique. Qin Lei couldn't help but feel that it was interesting. He had seen many experts in the imperial sword technique, but none of them had the imposing manner that Lin Muyu in front of him had. Even Qin Yin widened her beautiful eyes and looked at Lin Muyu. She completely didn't think that this shameful fellow who loved money as much as his life would actually have such an extraordinary imposing manner when drawing his sword. "I'm coming!" Qin Lei shouted and rushed out from the sword. Even with a light leap, the sword light was like a roulette spinning and chopping down 4 times in a row. Lin Muyu couldn't retreat. He held the sword hilt with both hands to block. He only felt that his arms were about to be shaken off. After the 4 consecutive shakes, he didn't even have time to react after he finished blocking. Qin Lei roared and raised his battle boots to kick out. "I have to block, or else I'll lose." In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, Lin Muyu raised his battle boots and met Qin Lei's kick with a pong. However, it was obvious that the opponent's do qi was stronger, causing him to continuously retreat a few steps. However, at the moment when he was forced to retreat, a lightning light flew out from his right hand with a pa-pa. The prairie fire sword had already left his hand and was in the air. Whoosh! The purplish-blue lightning light wrapped around the prairie fire sword and blasted straight towards Qin Lei. Lin Muyu didn't use his full strength and only used 50% of his strength. He was also afraid that he would injure Qin Lei. What? Qin Lei was stunned. He hurriedly raised his iron fist and condensed 3 layers of qi armor to block. Pong! The lightning light shot out in all directions. Qin Lei had underestimated Lin Muyu's strength and was continuously forced to continuously retreat a few steps. His face immediately flushed red. With a low shout, he concentrated a large amount of do qi into the blade of his sword and leaped up. From a high position, he gave another attack. This bull was planning to use strength to restrain the opponent. This attack was really too strong. Even the bitingly cold do qi blew to the point that Lin Muyu almost couldn't open his eyes. Opening his palm, a light breeze was silently generated. It was precisely the prelude to the prairie fire sword. Ha! When Lin Muyu raised his palm, the prairie fire sword, as if it had a mind of its own, followed along and welcomed the attack, sweeping up a bitterly cold storm in a small area. The weapon in Qin Lei's hand was only made of ordinary iron and couldn't be compared to the prairie fire sword, which was a 5th-tier mystic rank sword. Adding on the power of the sword soul, with a sharp whistling sound, the gale break collided with Qin Lei's attack storm. Pong! Another loud sound, the energy exploded. Qin Yin, Feng Jixing, Tang Xiaoxi, Chu Yao and the rest were all stunned. Qin Lei's face was full of shock. He had never thought that this little brat's prairie fire sword technique would be so strong. It wasn't like the weak and powerless attacks of those sword users he had met in the past. Lin Muyu's fighting spirit was even higher. He really wanted to see the power of the quadruple elemental sword technique, and Qin Lei, this level 72 Heavenly King stage powerhouse, was practically a rare touchstone. Wang! The blade whistled and spun. Lin Muyu's palms spread out horizontally. Raging flames sustained the prairie fire sword. However, this attack he didn't use the true dragon essence fire, only using ordinary fire. The long sword whistled, spiraling flames encircling it. Like a sharp arrow, it shot towards Qin Lei. Qin Lei was startled. He already felt that he couldn't block this attack. Ha! His battle boots stomped on the ground. In the midst of the shocking sound, golden chains rose in the surroundings. It was his God-binding chain's martial spirit. Brother Qin Lei. Qin Yin suddenly stood up. His eyes were full of anxiety. The God-binding chains was known as the first-grade martial spirit with the most destructive power in the world. This wasn't a joke. The slightest mistake could cause Qin Lei's opponent to lose his life. Lin Muyu had saved his life before. To let him die in front of him was something Qin Yin couldn't do. Pong! The flames exploded. The spiraling flames of the prairie fire sword collided with the God-binding chains. Qin Lei retreated a few steps. His qi and blood surged, and his fighting spirit surged. He didn't care about Qin Yin's scolding anymore. With a wave of his long sword, the God-binding chains encircled the long sword and struck towards Lin Muyu. Standing firmly on both feet, the overwhelming true qi surged. Lin Muyu summoned the dragon scale wall and the black tortoise shell at the fastest speed. At the same time, he used the prairie fire sword to control the prairie fire, which bounced back. The true dragon essence fire quickly encircled the blade. Since the true dragon essence fire could easily injure people, then it should be safer to use it for defense? Pong! A loud sound, as if the entire 7th floor of the Tingling Rain building was about to be overturned. JJJ. Lin Muyu knelt on one knee on the ground, panting heavily. The dragon scale wall and the black tortoise shell had already been shattered. The prairie fire was propped up on the floor. If it wasn't for the protection of the true dragon essence fire, perhaps she would have already been killed. Qin Lei held the long sword and stood there with a pale complexion. His God-binding chains martial soul had actually been completely shattered at that moment. The damage to his martial soul would inevitably injure his body. He felt a sweetness in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. Raising his head to look at Lin Muyu, he grinned and said, "You, what a beautiful sword art and defense. Ha ha! Delightful, delightful. Let's fight again." Lin Muyu didn't even raise her head. Instead, she raised her left hand and shook it. "Big brother Qin Lei, I don't want to fight anymore. I admit defeat." The qi and blood in his body surged. He indeed didn't have the strength to fight anymore. Tang Xiaoxi shot forward and supported Lin Muyu. "Are you all right?" Chu Yao also came over and took Lin Muyu's pulse, saying with a smile, "I'm fine. It's just that her martial soul suffered some damage." Qin Yin, on the other hand, looked at Qin Lei with a trace of reproach and said, "Big brother Qin Lei, you're too rash. You actually used the 7th layer of the God-binding chains to hit Ayu. If it wasn't for his deep cultivation, I'm afraid he would have already—" Qin Lei's face was full of apology. I know I was wrong. Xiaoyin, don't be angry. It's fine. Sit down and heal your internal injuries." N. Feng Jixing raised his wine cup and said with a smile, "You? Where did your imperial sword technique come from? A mysterious old man?" "Oh?" Feng Jixing knew that he didn't want to talk about it. So he said with a smile, "Since you have such a good sword technique, it would be a pity if he didn't participate in the Sword Duel Conference that's held once every 3 years. Sword Duel Conference? Yes, the Sword Duel Conference that's held once every 3 years. The person who wins first place can become a member of the Imperial Guards and receive the honor of meeting His Majesty." As he spoke, Feng Jixing patted his chest and said with a smile, "I'm not talented, but I was the champion of the Sword Duel Conference 3 years ago. I think I also had the title of Tiger of Tongtian Street. Back then, Tiger of Tongtian Street." Chu Huayin laughed and said, "It means that he carried a broken knife from the east side of Tongtian Street to the west side. He fought with a bunch of hooligans all day and was unbeatable. Sigh. The world is unfair. This kind of person can actually become a commander of the Imperial Guards." Feng Jixing glared at him and said, "You're so ugly. Don't talk." Chu Huayin was speechless. Chapter 78. Qin Lei led more than 30 Imperial Guards to escort Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi back to the mansion. Feng Jixing was drunk, carrying his precious sword and leading his own war horse. He turned over and leaned on the horse's back. He turned around to look at Lin Muyu and asked with a smile, You drank so much, can you still ride a horse?" Lin Muyu grabbed the reins and clamped the helmet under her armpit. She said with a smile, I can. Brother Feng should be more worried about whether you can ride a horseback or not. Feng Jixing couldn't help but laugh. This is not a problem. Lanyan City is my Feng Jixing's home. It doesn't matter if I get lost at home. Even if I am drunk, my brothers will find me and carry me back. Qin Lei burped. He was still carrying the wine jar in his hand and said, Imperial Guards, get on the horse. The lantern light outside Tingyu building was extremely dim. Lin Muyu couldn't see the faces of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi clearly. She only saw the two beautiful girls get on their respective horses. She asked, Your Highness, Xiaoxi, do you want me to send you back first and then I will go back to the Holy Temple? Brother Qin Lei drank too much. Qin Yin smiled with her dimples under the dim starlight. You also drank too much. Go back and rest early. Don't worry, Lanyan City is the imperial capital. There are dozens of imperial guards with extraordinary strength behind me. No one can do anything to me. I will also protect Xiaoxi. You should go back to the Holy Temple early. It is very late. Be careful of the wolves in the dark. Yes. Lin Muyu knew that what Qin Yin knew was a person like Jin Fang who couldn't wait to tear her into pieces. She spurred the horse and said with a smile, Then we will meet again if fate allows it. Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were hazy from the alcohol. She smiled and said, Goodbye, Mu. Qin Yin looked at Lin Muyu's receding figure and suddenly thought of something. She said loudly, You, remember to participate in the sword duel tournament. If you can enter the finals, Father and I will attend your celebration feast. The night was cold, and she didn't know if he heard it. A royal guard held onto the reins of Qin Yin's mount and said, Your Highness, shall we return to Zetian Palace? That person has gone far away. Qin Yin looked into the distance with her starry eyes. She blinked and said with a smile, Let's send Xiaoxi back to the Duke of Seven Seas' residence first. Then we'll return to Zetian Palace. Let's go. Yes. Lin Muyu and Chu Huaying sent Chu Yao back to the spiritual medicine department. Then they turned and went straight to the Holy Palace. When the two guards in the Holy Palace saw his attire, they immediately saluted him with a solemn expression. Lord Lin Ji, you're back? Lin Muyu nodded in acknowledgement and spurred her horse into the Holy Palace. After walking through the long corridor, just as they were about to go to the stables, a figure suddenly ran over. With the light from the torches, they could see the beard on his face. It was Zhang Wei. Lord Zhang Wei, what's the matter? Lin Muyu asked. Zhang Wei looked at the guards around them and said in a low voice, Lord Lin Ji, there's something I have to tell you, but this isn't the place to talk. Come with me. Lin Muyu got off the horse and walked into the training hall with Zhang Wei. Then she asked, Can you tell me now? What's the matter? Zhang Wei gritted his teeth and said, Brother, do you still remember Little Beansprout? Yes, of course I remember. Little Beansprout died tragically under Ouyang Qiu's sword. I'll remember it for the rest of my life. Little Beansprout's death was only exchanged for 500 Jin Yin coins. However, the 500 Jin Yin coins still didn't reach his parents. What? Lin Muyu's body trembled. She widened her eyes and looked at Zhang Wei. What exactly happened? Zhang Wei took a deep breath and said angrily, Little Beansprout's hometown is the Wuxia village, outside of Yanlan City. His parents are still alive. But this morning, I was ordered to bring the Holy Palace Knights out to buy winter clothes. When I passed by Wuxia village, I saw that Little Beansprout's parents were killed by someone. The 500 Jin Yin coins also disappeared without a trace. Damn it! Lin Muyu was furious. She was still tipsy and her face turned red. Could it be Jin Fang and Ouyang Qiu's doing? Zhang Wei sighed. Most likely. The two of us have already offended the Divine Marquis residence. It's expected that Jin Fang would kill Little Beansprout's parents to vent his anger. It's all my fault for being careless. Otherwise, the two of them could have escaped this calamity. No, it's my fault. Lin Muyu clenched her fists in pain. Zhang Wei looked at her deeply. Sir Lin Ji, Little Beansprout's parents shouldn't have been killed so unjustly, right? Even if we can't avenge little Beansprout, we should at least avenge his parents. Lin Muyu nodded lightly. Who is the person in charge of this case? The Fire Sparrow Division. Zhang Wei said blandly. The Fire Sparrow Division is responsible for all murder cases in Lanyan City. However, the Fire Sparrow Division is part of the Ministry of Justice, and the Minister of Justice is a frequent visitor of the Divine Marquis residence. Once the Divine Marquis residence exerts pressure, the Fire Sparrow Division will not be able to find anything. Furthermore, I've already received news that the Fire Sparrow Division has confirmed that Little Beansprout's parents were killed by bandits. The 500 Jin coins were the cause of their deaths. As he spoke, Zhang Wei punched the wall heavily. They died from a sword piercing through their throats. Half of their throats were shattered by the sword qi. There are only a handful of people in Lanyan City who have such sword skills. If it wasn't Ouyang Qiu, who else could it be? Lin Muyu nodded. I understand. Let's go see Deacon Lei Hong. Okay. The two of them led their horses straight to Lei Hong's residence. After knocking on the door a few times, Lei Hong floated out with a faint smile. You Zhang Wei, you too, Sai, you shouldn't meddle in things that you shouldn't. There are so many injustices in this world. Can you handle them all? Clearly, Rei Ham was very clear about Little Beansprout's matter. He knew the ins and outs of this matter better than anyone else. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, Grandpa Lei Hong, the temple is the temple of the Empire's martial artists. If even the temple can tolerate those madmen who kill the innocent, then what is the temple? Can it still be considered the martial spirit of the Empire's cultivators? Aren't we cultivating martial arts to defend the Empire and fight for the weak? Lei Hong was taken aback. These words. No one dares to say to me like this. Lin Muyu's eyes were filled with pride. Grandpa Lei Hong, you are the deacon of the Divine Temple. You have to shoulder this burden even if you don't want to. Otherwise, you are not fit to be the deacon. Lei Hong's eyes widened. After a while, he shook his head helplessly. You stinking brat. I really don't know what to do with you. How could that old fellow Chu Chu accept such a stubborn disciple like you? Fine, I still have to give face to Chu Chu. Go get the horses and follow me to the Fire Sparrow Division. Thank you, Grandpa Lei Hong. Zhang Wei was also overjoyed. He cupped his fists and said, Thank you, Deacon. The Empire's Fire Sparrow Division was located on the right side of the Ministry of Justice. The entire building was connected together, and the main hall of the Fire Sparrow Division was like a fire sparrow soaring through the 9 heavens. It had an awe-inspiring and lifelike appearance. Outside the main hall, 8 guards stood guard with swords in their hands. The torches at the side flickered and flickered. The sound of hooves grew louder as Lei Hong, Lin Muyu, and Zhang Wei stopped their horses in front of the main hall. Who are you? The guard shouted. Rei Ham slowly lifted his cloak, revealing his aged face. So it's the temple's deacon. The group of guards knelt down. Lei Hong was not only the deacon, he was also one of the 6 white-robed royal guards of the Empire. He had the right to have an audience with the Emperor. Such an important person was not someone the guards could afford to offend. May I know why the deacon is visiting the Fire Sparrow Division so late at night? I want to see the Fire Sparrow Division's headmaster Zhanggu. Master Zhanggu is already asleep. Please pass the message to him. Yes. Not long after, the guard returned and said, Deacon, please come in. Thank you. The guards led the group into the main hall of the Flamecracks Division. The attendants lit up the lanterns, illuminating the hall. A man dressed in the uniform of a civil official flew up to greet them, knelt on the ground and said, Subordinate Zhanggu. Greets Deacon Lei Hong. Lei Hong helped him up and smiled. Master Zhanggu, there is no need to be so courteous. Get up, get up. May I know why the deacon is here? Why don't you tell him? Yes. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and told him about the tragic death of Little Beansprout's parents. After listening, Zhanggu's expression did not look too good. This case has already been closed. If you want to reopen it now, I'm afraid it will be a little abrupt. Deacon, Lei Hong said lightly, Master Zhenggu, the Fire Sparrow Division is in charge of the Empire's criminal law. As the head of the Fire Sparrow Division, you can't just sit back and do nothing when you know someone has died unjustly, right? Zhenggu took a deep breath. This matter is of great importance. I'm afraid. Lei Hong waved his hand. You don't have to say anymore. Write a document now and hand over the authority to investigate this case to Lin Ji and Zhang Wei. This matter implicates our temple's people, and we need to clean them up. I have no choice but to interfere. Zhenggu gritted his teeth and nodded. Yes, but if the Divine Marquis Constabulary investigates, Lei Hong smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Don't worry. If the Divine Marquis Constabulary investigates, I, Lei Hong, will bear all responsibility. Thank you, I will write it now. In the middle of the night, Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei rode on their horses, dressed in the Holy Temple's general robes, heading straight out of the city. The two of them did not speak. The only thing they wanted to do was to punish the evil, and not let Xinfang cover the Holy Temple and Lanyan City with one hand. Lei Hong looked at their backs from afar. He had gone all out to support them this time. As the deacon of the Holy Temple, he had kept a low profile for so many years, but now he had actually done something so out of line. Even Lei Hong was a little surprised, but he was still in a good mood. In Lin Muyu, he could faintly see a version of himself that was neither humble nor submissive, but after the baptism of time, his sharpness had been worn down, and now that he saw Lin Muyu, he could not help but think of himself in the past. You? He sighed softly, but suddenly felt relieved. He felt that this child was like a ray of light that had illuminated the darkness of the empire for thousands of years. Chapter 79. It was a quiet night in Wuxia village. The villagers were all asleep, and the sound of the horses' hooves did not wake them up. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei went straight to the Firefinch Division, in the northwest of Wuxia village. Rather than calling it a division, it was more like a small courtyard. Two officials were supervising the village, and the bodies of little Beansprout's parents were kept here. Who is it? One of the officials opened the door in a drunken stupor, and saw Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei in full armor. Both of them had the Holy Cathedral's gold and silver star badges on their necks. The official paused for a moment, and then respectfully said, "So it's the Lord of the Holy Cathedral. May I ask, why are you visiting the Firefinch Division in the middle of the night?" Lin Muyu nodded, and took out a document for him to read. "Where are the bodies of little Beansprout's parents? Can we bring them back?" Yes. When they saw the bodies, Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei's hearts clenched. The two elders' heads were crooked to one side, and there was a shocking hole in their necks. Their bones and flesh had all been crushed, so their heads could no longer be connected to their bodies. This is indeed Yangqiu's method of killing. Zhang Wei silently covered the bodies with a white cloth. Yangqiu is an expert in using his dou qi to shatter his opponent's body. This is the same as little Beansprout's death. We have the material evidence, we're just missing a witness. Lin Muyu said lightly, "We need to find a witness to prove that Yangqiu killed the two elders. Otherwise, we won't be able to convict him. Let's wait until tomorrow morning and go through the villagers one by one." Yes. The next morning, they went through the villagers one by one, and finally found a mute girl. She was acting crazily, and when she saw Lin Muyu and Yangqiu, she screamed as if she had seen a ghost. Lin Muyu hurried forward and pressed her shoulder, saying, "Miss, don't be afraid. We're not bad people. Don't be afraid." The mute lady stared at the golden star of the temple on Lin Muyu's neck, and shook her head in horror, screaming out loud. The Fire Sparrow officer said, "Sir, this little girl is a deaf and mute lunatic. You won't be able to get anything out of her." "Really?" Lin Muyu smiled coldly. He saw the mute lady take out a gold star badge from her bosom. In front of the gold star was the shape of a sword. That was the badge of a gold star sparring master from the holy sanctum. Zhang Wei snatched it over and asked, "Miss, is this left behind by the murderer?" The little girl nodded. She was too afraid to look up at Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei. "It really is Yangqiu." Zhang Wei flipped the badge over and said, "Lin Ji, Look, Ouyangqiu's name is engraved on the back. This is indeed unintentionally left behind by Ouyangqiu. This bastard really killed Little Bean Sprout's parents with his own hands. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth. Send Little Bean Sprout's parents back to Lanyan City, and bring this girl along. Ouyangqiu is dead meat. And at noon, they arrived at the holy sanctum and handed over all the evidence to Deacon Guyang. The morning training had just ended, and the group of instructors and sparring masters were about to leave when they were gathered together again. Among them, Zhenfang and Ouyangqiu were present. Lei Hong looked at them coldly and said, "Instructors who killed sparring masters by mistake do not have to pay with their lives. But if they intentionally killed multiple people, shouldn't they be punished according to the law?" "Great Deacon, what do you mean by this?" Zhenfang asked. Lei Hong's voice was not angry, but it was imposing. Ouyangqiu kneel. Ouyangqiu was startled, and immediately knelt down, saying, "Great Deacon, what have I done wrong?" Lin Muyu took out a gold star badge and showed it to Ouyangqiu, saying, "When you killed Little Bean Sprout's parents, you left this in the bushes." "What?" Ouyangqiu's face paled. "Lin Ji, don't slander me," Lei Hong said indifferently. "Fire Sparrow Division's people will be here soon. This matter will be resolved. Ouyangqiu, don't be nervous. If you really killed them on purpose, I will definitely clean up the sect. With the power of the holy sanctum, even if you didn't kill them, I will not accuse you." "Lin Ji, you bastard, you just want to kill me, don't you?" Ouyangqiu's eyes were filled with anger. Lin Muyu did not speak, only looking at him coldly. Zhenfang stared coldly at Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei, and couldn't help but sneer. "Lin Ji, Lord Zhang Wei, you guys are so impressive. You even dared to snatch Fire Sparrow C's job. Our divine temple is indeed full of heroes. In order to kill one of our own, you guys are willing to resort to such underhanded means. Ouyangqiu is from the Divine Marquis Constabulary. I want to see what Fire Sparrow C can do to him." Lei Hong said coldly, "Little Marquis, always leave some leeway. Don't push things too far." Zhenfang raised his eyebrows. "Lei Hong, don't think that I'm afraid of you just because you're white-robed Imperial Forest. If you dare touch Ouyangqiu, go ahead and try. I will make you suffer." "Is that so? Then let's wait and see." Lei Hong smiled lightly. Not long after, Fire Sparrow Division sent more than 10 people, including Zhang Gu himself. In a short span of 10 minutes, all the evidence and witnesses were present. Zhang Gu said lightly, "According to the law, Ouyangqiu should be executed immediately." Ouyangqiu's body trembled. He quickly turned to Zhenfang. "Little Marquis, save me?" Zhenfang stepped forward, took out a golden token and said, "Wait. Ouyangqiu is from the Divine Marquis Palace. He is a noble. I will use the Divine Marquis Palace's golden token to protect his life. No one can kill Ouyangqiu." Zhang Gu was stunned. He looked at Lei Hong awkwardly. Lei Hong stroked his beard and smiled. "The Divine Marquis Palace's golden token will protect his life. There is no problem. But the Holy Sanctum also has its own rules. Ouyangqiu killed someone. He should accept the challenge trial. Little Marquis, what do you think? I will be the witness." "Trial?" Zhenfang was stunned. The so-called challenge trial was a type of duel, a battle to determine life and death. After a noble killed someone, the relatives and friends of the victim could challenge the killer once, and they would not be held accountable. This was an unwritten rule, and it was very popular in the Qin Empire where martial arts were the norm. Ouyangqiu seemed to see hope. He laughed coldly. "Little Beansprout is already dead. Who can challenge him on his behalf?" In the entire Holy Sanctum, Ouyangqiu's swordsmanship cultivation could be counted on one hand. There were not many people who could defeat him in a one-on-one fight, and Little Beansprout was a copper star sparring master. He only had a few close friends, and none of them were a match for Ouyangqiu. At this time, Lin Muyu slowly took a step forward and said, "If there is really a challenge, then let me challenge Lord Ouyangqiu. Little Beansprout is my friend, and today, I will reclaim the dignity of the Holy Sanctum's sparring masters." "Lin Ji," Ouyangqiu couldn't help but sneer. "You're just a third-tier Earth Realm sparring partner. You've made a name for yourself in the Holy Palace. Do you really think you can defeat me? Lin Muyu smiled calmly. We will know after the battle. Humph. Yangqiu's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. If you lose, I will not hesitate to tear your heart into pieces, dig it out, and feed it to the dogs. I, Yangqiu, am a man of my words. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. I will also kill you as a sacrifice to little Beansprout's parents, or else I am not worthy of being his friend. Lei Hong smiled faintly. 10 minutes later, the duel will take place in the main hall. Lord Zhanggu and I will be the witnesses. Zhang Gu nodded happily. I am willing to listen to your orders. Lin Ji, you are crazy. Qin Xiling gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, Yangqiu's imperial sword technique has already reached perfection. Although your defense is strong, you are definitely not his match. Also, Yangqiu really wants to kill this time. If you lose, he will kill you. The rules of the trial state that no one can interfere, even if the head deacon wants to save you. Don't worry, Xiling. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder, smiled and said, If I am not confident, I will not challenge him. Yes, I hope you can avenge little Beansprout. The surrounding sparring masters were indignant after knowing the truth. Little Beansprout's situation was exactly the same as theirs. The strong preying on the weak made them feel fear, one after another. They all cheered for Lin Muyu. Lin Ji, do your best to defeat him. Kill Yangqiu, the scum of the instructors. Lin Ji, fight for the honor of us sparring partners. Don't lose, Lin Ji. Unknowingly, it seemed that Lin Muyu had already become the hope and soul of the temple's sparring masters. Lei Hong watched from the side and was secretly gratified. Temple needed this kind of hope. If the instructors and sparring masters were always one-sided, then Temple would never prosper. Yangqiu was already preparing. He used the scarlet mantis to sharpen the edge of the sword. The scarlet mantis was a type of hard stone. It was also the best whetstone in the empire. When he was sharpening the sword, his voice also seemed to be a kind of contempt and provocation to his opponent. Fortunately, Lin Muyu's willpower was stronger than his. She did not care at all. The trial, prepare to begin. Deacon Guyang shouted loudly. Yangqiu jumped and stood in the center of the hall, his battle boots stomping on the stone floor. Immediately a wave of battle energy appeared. His martial soul also wrapped around his shoulders. The corner of his mouth curled up in a disdainful smile. Lin Ji, you are courting death. Lin Muyu walked step by step to the center of the hall, about 10 meters away from him. He lightly shouted. A wave of air surged around his body. This time, he did not summon the black tortoise shell or the dragon scale wall. Lin Ji gave up on defense. Is he crazy? One of the instructors said in shock. Zhang Wei frowned. Courting death. Yangqiu let out a roar. His entire body was covered with battle energy. He opened his palms and used his qi to control the sword, charging toward Lin Muyu. Before he even got close to her, he had already condensed the energy of dozens of blades made of battle energy and attacked. Lin Muyu saw the opportunity. She raised her left palm, and the wind element that she had been accumulating for a long time burst out. This was the energy of the wind sword, the wind sword. Even though this energy was not enough to destroy Yangqiu's attack, it could greatly delay the time of his attack. She opened her right palm, and purple lightning suddenly flickered. The burning prairie sword was unsheathed by itself, and under the guidance of the lightning, it shot toward Yangqiu at lightning speed. The speed was so fast that it left everyone in the hall dumbfounded. No one had ever seen an attack with such speed and momentum. Wild thunder wave. Lightning circled around the burning prairie sword, carrying with it an unstoppable force. This was the attack that Lin Muyu had given up on defense, and she had converted all of her strength into an attack. The burning prairie sword directly pierced through Yangqiu's qi armor, and in the next moment, lightning began to wreak havoc. Clang! Yangqiu raised his sword in an attempt to block, but his sword was instantly shattered by the sharp burning prairie sword. Immediately after, the burning prairie sword pierced through his heart and heavily nailed into the pillar behind him. Yangqiu stood there in disbelief. He lowered his head to look at the armor in front of his chest, and saw that the armor in front of his chest had been pierced through, and his heart was almost burnt to a crisp. In an instant, his mind had already gone blank. Chapter 80. Pong! A speck of dust flew up, and Ouyang Qiu's heavy armor fell heavily to the ground. His eyes were blank, and his breathing had stopped at this moment. The hall was dead silent, and everyone stood there with their mouths agape. Even the sound of a needle falling to the ground could be heard, including Lei Hong. No one could have guessed this result. The Gold Star instructor, Ouyang Qiu, was killed by Lin Muyu in a single move. How? How is this possible? Guiyang rubbed his eyes and said, Ouyang Qiu. He was the #1 swordsman of the sacred sanctum. How could he be killed by Lin Ji in a single move? Zhenfang's eyes widened, and his body trembled. He did not dare to believe the truth in front of him, but Ouyang Qiu was still lying there, and his defeat was a fact. In fact, the biggest reason why Ouyang Qiu was defeated in a single move was because he had underestimated Lin Muyu. He did not expect Lin Muyu to also have grasped the Imperial Sword Technique, and he did not expect that the kid's Imperial Sword Technique would be so fast. Sha sha! Zhang Wei strode forward with steady steps and pulled out the dagger from his waist. He knelt down on one knee in front of Ouyang Qiu's corpse and grabbed his hair. Then, he used the dagger to slowly slice his neck. Zhang Wei, what are you doing? Zhenfang shouted angrily. Zhang Wei did not stop, and in a few seconds, he had already cut off Ouyang Qiu's head. He held it in his hand and laughed. He was just a sinner who died because of a trial, and I want to use his head to pay homage to little Beansprout and his parents. Why? Don't you think this is what you should do? You! Zhenfang's face contorted, and his face was full of anger. Zhang Wei, you really have the guts to eat a bear's heart and a leopard's heart. Zhang Wei was originally full of guts, and he smiled slightly. I only did what I had to do. Lord Lin Ji, you won beautifully. Lin Ji stood there silently. He hadn't killed anyone for a long time, but he couldn't suppress his killing intent at that moment. If he didn't kill Ouyang Qiu today, he would be letting down his true self. Lei Hong, who was standing at the side, smiled faintly and raised his voice. There is no need to quarrel. The verdict is out. Lin Ji is the winner. Ouyang Qiu is a Gold Star instructor of the Holy Sanctum, yet he intentionally killed someone. His death cannot wipe out his crimes. Today, Ouyang Qiu will be stripped of all his titles and salary. He will be removed from the Holy Sanctum. We should all take him as a warning, not to kill the innocent, not to be cruel and ruthless. The group of instructors and sparring partners cupped their fists. Yes, Grand Deacon. Raham smiled and said, Men, bury Ouyang Qiu's body with the etiquette of a commoner. Everyone is dismissed. After lunch, afternoon training will continue as usual. Lin Ji, you stay behind. Yes. The group dispersed. Only Lin Muyu remained in the hall, asking, Grandpa Raham, what's the matter? Raham sighed. Even though you are talented, you are too reckless. Your actions today have completely offended the Divine Marquis residence. I'm afraid that your future days will not be good. The Divine Marquis residence has many claws and teeth in Lanyan City. I'm afraid that if you continue like this, you will definitely suffer at their hands. How about this? Raham thought for a moment, then said, From today onwards, you will continue to train in the secret chamber. Other than the daily sparring partners, do not take a single step out of the Holy Sanctum. I will strengthen the security of the Holy Sanctum. At least we will not allow anyone to easily sneak into the Holy Sanctum. Lin Muyu knew that this was Raham's way of protecting her, and that she really didn't know the depth of the Divine Marquis residence. So she cupped her fists and said, Yes, I will follow Grandpa Raham's arrangements. And that's good. Raham was slightly gratified, even though this kid's actions were always unexpected. But to be able to listen to his advice was already not bad. At night, in the brightly lit Divine Marquis residence. Bang! The teacup on the table bounced a few times, spilling tea all over the table, and the aroma of tea wafted through the air. Zhang Yifan, the Divine Marquis of the Empire, was known as the God of War, but the current Zhang Yifan no longer had the elegance of his youth. His thin face was covered with the traces of time, only the light in his eyes remained the same. He clenched his fists and said in a low voice, "This is simply ridiculous. Killing people in the holy sanctum is one thing, but they actually dared to kill people in Wuxia village. Ouyang Qiu deserved his death." Zhang Fong had not seen his father so angry for many years. He knelt on the ground, trembling, and said, "Father." But Ouyang Qiu was a guest of the divine marquis residence. "No matter what, we can't let him die like this. What else can we do?" Zhang Yifan's deep gaze fell on Zhang Fong. There was a hint of coldness in his eyes. "Fong, you disappoint me. Why did I send you into the holy sanctum? It was because I hoped that you would be able to cultivate peerless martial arts and extraordinary loyalty, but you only learned some lowly tricks in the holy sanctum. Don't say any more, otherwise I'll send you to the ascetic tower for 3 years. Zhang Fong's face was ashen. He was so scared that he could not speak. At this moment, a beautiful young girl carrying a tea tray slowly walked forward. She was dressed in clothes whiter than snow and had a face as beautiful as jade. She put down the tray and massaged Zhang Yifan's shoulders. She smiled and said, "Father, don't be angry at little brother. He's just young and impetuous. If you really lock him up in the ascetic pagoda, I'm afraid he'll become an ignorant piece of trash when he comes out in 3 years." The anger on Zhang Yifan's face subsided a little. He said, Xiang, you spoil your younger brother too much. Look at him. Where does he look like the young master of the divine marquis residence? He only knows how to befriend useless people all day long." This girl was Zhang Yifan's daughter, Zhang Xiang, Zhang Fong's older sister. Zhang Xiang smiled and said, "Father, let's forget about this matter. Ouyang Qiu was the one who killed first. It was indeed his fault, and he died during the trial challenge. It has nothing to do with anyone else." Zhang Yifan nodded. "Yes, I know. Xiang, go and rest first. I'll think about it carefully." "Yes, okay." Zhang Xiang turned and left. After sensing that Zhang Xiang had gone far away, Zhang Yifan's eyes lit up. He said, "That brat named Lin Muyu killed Ouyang Qiu. This is no different from provoking the divine marquis residence. Lei Hong was so protective of Lin Muyu. Humph. Isn't he looking down on the divine marquis residence? Since that old thing Lei Hong is not afraid of the divine marquis residence, then don't blame me for being rude." As he spoke, Zhang Yifan took a deep breath. After breathing in and out true yuan, he smiled faintly. "Elder Song, I'm afraid you'll need to personally come out this time. Divine Marquis, I'll do my best." An ethereal voice came from the sky. Zhang Fong hurriedly looked up and smiled in surprise. "Grandpa Song is in the capital? Aren't you going to welcome him?" Zhang Yifan smiled. Zhang Fong hurriedly turned around to open the door, only to see a sage-like old man under the moonlight, holding an iron staff in his hand. The corners of his mouth curled up with a doting smile. "Fong, you've grown up so much. Grandpa Song, why are you here in Lanyan City? Didn't I want to see you and Xiang?" The old man stepped into the hall, and an invisible force of the sanctuary rippled with every step he took. Zhang Yifan smiled. "Congratulations, Elder Song. You've finally entered the sanctuary." The old man looked up with a smile. "Greetings, Divine Marquis. No need to be so polite, take a seat." "Yes." Song Baihe, one of the few experts in the empire, was once a guest of the Divine Marquis residence. He followed Zhang Yifan to conquer the north and the south, but he went into hiding when the Radiant King was rewarding the officials. Now that he had reappeared in Lanyan City, he would surely bring about a bloodbath. "Elder Tsang, you should know about the Divine Temple openly provoking the Divine Marquis residence, right?" Zhang Yifan said casually as he personally brewed tea. Song Baihe nodded. "I've heard a little, but the Divine Temple is not easy to deal with. Although many of the experts have retired, Lei Hong is still around. Although the Divine Marquis residence has many talents, they might not be able to gain the upper hand in a direct confrontation with Lei Hong. After all, other than Lei Hong, there are still Guyang and a bunch of old guys with a cultivation of heaven state. I think the Divine Marquis would not want to fight Lei Hong directly, right?" Zhang Yifan could not help but smile. "The one who knows me best? Song Baihe." As he said this, a glint flashed across his eyes. Lei Hong ordered Lin Muyu to kill Ouyang Qiu. He is using a borrowed knife to kill him. If he can make a move, then so can we. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei are both Lei Hong's trusted aides. Within 3 days, I want to see both of them crippled. Yes. Song Bai has smiled, his eyes flashing with killing intent. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu had been staying in the divine temple to cultivate. She had become more proficient in the 4 elemental sword kinesis, and at the same time she was also cultivating the forging dragon bone remnant scroll. The more she cultivated, the more she could feel the wonders of the forging dragon bone remnant scroll. Every 2 days, Lin Muyu could circulate the mental cultivation method of the forging dragon bone remnant scroll 72 times, after which she could feel the increase in her strength. However, Lin Muyu was cultivating in secret. She did not know that danger was approaching. Late at night, the Tong Tian Street's tavern street was dark. Big girl, chest trembling, swaying to the left, swaying to the right, making my heart sway. A messy and vulgar song came out of the drunken Zhang Wei's mouth. He held the railing with one hand and a wine pot with the other as he walked out of the tavern. He was drunk again today. In fact, this was also Zhang Wei's daily life. Zhang Wei loved alcohol as much as his life. It was his biggest weakness. There were not many people on the street. Suddenly, a murderous intent shrouded down from the sky. Who? Zhang Wei quickly sobered up from the shock, and with a shout, he finished the blessing of his martial soul. His body was covered in raging flames, and his fists danced in the air. Fists surrounded by flames exploded in the air, and he roared, "Get out here!" Zhang Wei's unique skill, Fiery Soul Fist. A loud laugh came from the sky. Zhang Wei's Fiery Soul Fist. It really has some of the style of Xiang Wen's Fiery Fist, but the level of fire is too far off. Kneel for me. A powerful invisible domain power descended, and the bricks of the city collapsed. Zhang Wei's fists immediately cracked, and his knees involuntarily knelt down. In the face of absolute power, he did not even have the chance to punch. Looking up, an old man appeared in front of him, but he did not recognize him. "Who are you?" "I'm crippling your man." The person suddenly appeared behind Zhang Wei in a flash, and a sharp sword was unsheathed. Ah! In the middle of the night, a miserable howl echoed on Tong Tian Street. Chapter 81. Lord Lin Ji, wake up! A servant's voice came from outside the room. Lin Muyu woke up from his sleep, his aura swirling around him as he asked, "What's wrong?" "Something has happened to Lord Zhang Wei." "Ah!" After a shudder, Lin Muyu was no longer sleepy. He grabbed his clothes and rushed out of the room. Not far away, a cluster of torches flickered in the direction of the training hall. When he got closer, he saw Zhang Wei's bloodied body lying on a long stone at the side of the training hall. Lei Hong, Gu Yang, and the other deacons of the Holy Temple were already there. What happened to Zhang Wei? Lin Muyu rushed forward and shook Zhang Wei's arm. He didn't move and checked if he was still breathing. He couldn't help but look up. "What happened, Grandpa Lei Hong?" Lei Hong's face was ashen as he said, "Zhang Wei was attacked on Tong Tian Street. You look at the wound on Zhang Wei's back and you'll know." 2 Iron Star instructors walked forward and lifted Zhang Wei's body, only to see that both sides of his spine had been completely minced by the sword qi. It was a bloody mess. Lin Muyu couldn't bear to look at it and turned his head. "Who could be so cruel?" Gu Yang said with a trembling voice. The most cruel thing is not to kill, but to turn people into cripples. The dragon tendons on both sides of Zhang Wei's spine have been destroyed." "Dragon tendons?" He was stunned. Lei Hong said coldly, "The dragon tendons are the 2 sides of the spine to exert force, just like the string of a longbow. Once the dragon tendons are destroyed, the cultivator's qi and qi will not be able to circulate throughout the body. This person didn't kill Zhang Wei, but turned him into a cripple who can no longer practice martial arts." "What?" Lin Muyu's eyes widened. "Who is it? What do you think?" Raham said calmly, "No matter what, Zhang Wei is an expert who is about to step into the heavenly realm. The person who can subdue Zhang Wei with one move is probably at least in the Saint Domain. After the Winter Ridge Rebellion hundreds of years ago, there were only a handful of Saint Domain experts in the Empire. I can more or less guess who it is, Guiyang said from the side. For now, the most important thing to do is to think of a way to save Zhang Wei. He is our Silver Star instructor, and is about to be promoted to Gold Star instructor. Once he becomes a cripple, his life will be over. Call the people from the Spiritual Medicine Department over immediately. Not long after, a group of white-robed medical officers from the Spirit Medicine Department entered the temple. They quickly stopped the bleeding and treated Zhang Xian's injuries. However, their progress did not seem to be very smooth. When the sun rose, the attendant of the Spirit Medicine Department looked at Raham apologetically and said, "Lord Raham, Zhang Wei's injuries are too severe. His dragon tendons have been completely shattered and cannot be healed. He can no longer practice martial arts." Raham had already guessed that this would be the result. He sighed and smiled. "Thank you all. It wasn't easy to save his life." The attendant of the Spirit Medicine Department bowed and left. At this time, Zhang Wei woke up. He lay motionless on the bed, but his fierce eyes were fixed on Raham. "Chief Attendant." "Zhang Wei." Raham's body trembled. "It's okay. You will be healed." Zhang Wei was surprisingly calm, but there was a trace of despair in his eyes. "Chief Attendant, you don't have to comfort me. I know I'm crippled. My dragon tendons have been severed. Even the gods can't save me." As he spoke, Zhang Wei looked at Lin Muyu and smiled. "Lin Ji." Lin Muyu walked forward and held onto the bed. "Don't talk. Rest well." Zhang Wei smiled. "I just want to remind you that there are two people who have offended the Divine Marquis residence. One is me, and I have already been avenged. The other is you. Lin Ji, don't underestimate your enemy. The person who ambushed me is very strong. I'm afraid his strength is comparable to Chief Attendant's. You must be careful. I, Zhang Wei, have a worthless life." "No." Lin Muyu's voice was calm and determined. "I can heal you." "You don't joke around," Raham said. "The dragon tendons are the foundation of a cultivator. Once they are severed, even the gods can't save you." Moreover, Zhang Wei's dragon tendons were not severed, but crushed. "No, Grandpa Raham, you must believe me." Lin Muyu's eyes were very clear. "Zhang Wei, you must believe me too. Don't give up. I will definitely heal your dragon tendons and restore them to their original state." Zhang Wei did not know what he was thinking. He nodded and smiled. Then I'll have to trouble Master Lin Ji." Outside the door, Raham said with some reproach, Even if you want to comfort Zhang Wei, you don't have to lie, right?" "No, I'm serious." Raham turned around. His eyes filled with suspicion. "How can you heal Zhang Wei's injuries?" "Grandpa Raham, have you heard of a medicine called tendon replenishing powder?" Lin Muyu asked seriously. Lei Hong was immediately startled. Guiyang, who was standing to the side, stroked his beard and said, "I've heard of a book in the Zhe Tian Hall's library. There's a level 10 medicine called the muscle replenishing powder that can regenerate muscles and bones, but this is only a legend. There hasn't been an alchemy god on this continent for hundreds of years, so who would have the ability to refine the muscle replenishing powder?" Lin Muyu did not say much. "Then give me some time." "Yes." Raham nodded. "I'll allow you half a month's leave. Is that okay?" "Thank you, Grandpa Raham. Go." He led a sturdy warhorse from the temple stable and galloped toward the trading center of Lanyan City. At the same time, he tried his best to recall the recipe for the tendon replenishing powder. Dragon tendon vine and luminous nightgrass were two level 10 medicinal herbs that were very rare. He would try his luck at the Empire's medicine shop. As he galloped, he called out, "Lulu!" Whoosh! The beautiful elven official flew out. She was still wearing a green dress that was as thin as a cicada's wings in the cold autumn weather. She smiled and said, "Brother, what's the matter? Did you see dragon tendon vine and luminous nightgrass when you were drawing the map in the dragon-seeking forest? If you did, Mark them on the map for me, okay? Lin Muyu said urgently. Lulu sat on his shoulder and shook her head. I haven't seen them. They're too rare. Also, Lulu's spiritual energy isn't enough to fly too far. Okay, I'll go ask myself. Not long after, Lin Muyu arrived at the Imperial Merchant Firm and immediately went to find Third Fatty Jean. Third Fatty Jean immediately beamed when he saw Lin Muyu. Master, are you going to buy some 7-colored lotuses again? I've already prepared them for you. No need. Lin Muyu shook her head and asked, Boss Jean, do you have dragon tendon vine and luminous nightgrass for sale? Third Fatty Jean was stunned. They're both level 10 medicinal herbs? Yes. Do you have them? Third Fatty Jean said awkwardly. Although there are all sorts of medicinal herbs in the Imperial Trading Center, we don't have the 2 that you want. It's said that dragon tendon vine only grows in the gaps in the spine of a dragon, and its fertilizer is dragon tendon. Luminous nightgrass is no different from other weeds. The only thing special about it is that it can emit light at night. We don't have either. Then, thank you. Lin Muyu felt a little lonely. She thought of Zhang Wei's miserable appearance. In a sense, Zhang Wei ended up like this because of her. Even if she had to do everything she could, she had to heal his crippled body. This was what a man should do. When he saw Lin Muyu's disappointed expression, Third Fatty Jean smiled. I heard that the Duke of Seven Seas residence has many precious medicinal herbs. Many of them were collected by Duke Kanglin's people. Master, you can try your luck at the Duke of Seven Seas residence. If you really can't find them, with your status as the Divine Palace's Golden Star, you should be able to go to the Zetian Palace's Medicine Pavilion. You might be able to find them. Okay, thank you. Lin Muyu nodded, turned around and left the medicine shop. In less than 10 minutes, the warhorse stopped in front of the Duke of Seven Seas residence. Lin Muyu dismounted and carried the burning prairie sword on her back. She cupped her fists at the guards and said, Divine Palace's Lin Ji requests an audience with Princess Shi. Please help me pass the message. One of the guards nodded respectfully and returned not long after entering the residence. He performed an empire's military salute and said, Lord Lin Ji, the princess invites you in. She's waiting for you in the front hall. Thank you. The Duke of Seven Seas residence was like a large garden. It made Lin Muyu feel like he was entering a Tiger Hill. There were guards all along the way, as if to show off the strength of the Seven Seas city's army. The front hall was not far away. When he arrived, Tang Xiaoxi had already walked out in a beautiful red and white dress. Her little boots stepped on the red maple leaves on the ground. She smiled and said, Mu, you finally saw me? Looking at Tang Xiaoxi's happy and beautiful face, he was a little embarrassed. He scratched his head and said, Xiaoxi, I actually came here with a request. Humph. I knew it. Say it, what's the matter? Tang Xiaoxi was not unhappy at all. I heard that the Duke of Seven Seas residence has stored many precious medicinal herbs. I especially need 2 kinds of medicinal herbs now. I wonder if Xiaoxi can help, he said very awkwardly. Tang Xiaoxi blinked her beautiful eyes and said, Actually, I'm not very clear about the classification of the medicinal herbs in the residence, but since you need them, let's go and take a look. Tang Xiaoxi reached out and pulled him into the depths of the residence. They found the official in charge of safekeeping in the medicinal herb storehouse. In the end, after looking through the records for a long time, they couldn't find the 2 medicinal herbs. Lin Muyu felt a little disappointed and her brows furrowed. Do you need these 2 medicinal herbs urgently? Tang Xiaoxi asked with concern. To save my life. Lin Muyu murmured. The medicinal essence of the dragon tendon vine and luminous nightgrass, as well as the blood of the needlepoint bird, can be refined into a level 10 medicine called tendon replenishment powder. The greatest effect of tendon replenishment powder is to regenerate the muscles and bones. It has the effect of almost bringing the dead back to life. Tang Xiaoxi's eyes widened. You're doing this to save Zhang Wei, aren't you? Lin Muyu did not deny it. She looked deeply at Tang Xiaoxi and said, Zhang Wei is my friend. He was killed because he went with me to investigate the case of little Beansprout's parents. Now that Zhang Wei's tendons have been crushed by a mysterious expert, I have no reason to stand by and do nothing. Tang Xiaoxi clasped her hands in front of her and suddenly smiled. Although we can find the dragon tendon vine and luminous nightgrass in the Duke of Seven Seas residence. But we still have a place to try our luck. Who knows, there might be some. What place? The medicine pavilion of Zetian Palace. Tang Xiaoxi was smiling brightly in the slight autumn wind, and the bowknot on her hair was like a fiery red butterfly. Chapter 82. When it was close to noon, 2 warhorses stopped outside the palace gates of Zetian Palace. Tang Xiaoxi dismounted and walked forward with Lin Muyu. A group of imperial guards also came forward to greet them. Princess Shi. The imperial guard respectfully greeted. Tang Xiaoxi said, "Please help me pass a message to Her Highness Yin. Tell her that Tang Xiaoxi requests an audience with her." Yes. The imperial guard quickly mounted his horse and rode for a full 10 minutes before returning. He cupped his fists together and said, "Her Highness Yin is practicing archery in Phoenix Perching Palace. Let me bring Princess Shi and Lin Ji there." Many thanks." They quickly mounted their horses and galloped all the way to the imperial palace. This was Lin Muyu's first time entering Zetian Palace, and it was an indescribable novelty to her. Inside Zetian Palace, the white jade floor shimmered with a luster. In the distance, there were palaces shrouded in mist. Floating windows carved from blue tiles shone with the luster of crystal and jade. Every 10 steps there was a sentry post of the Imperial Guard. Not only was this place as rich as a mountain of gold and a sea of jade, but the security here was also extraordinarily tight. After passing through palace after palace, they finally arrived at Phoenix Perching Palace. This was Qin Yin's residence. The continuous palace terrace left Lin Muyu speechless. It was too luxurious. She lived in such a large house by herself. She originally thought that living in a villa in the real world was already considered luxurious. But compared to Qin Yin's residence, it was simply simple and unadorned. Outside of Phoenix Perching Palace was a martial arts practice field. Amidst the clattering of horse hooves, eldest Princess Qin Yin rode a fine horse in a golden cloak. She held a very exquisite bow in her hand, and the golden power of the god-binding chains surrounded her. She let go of the reins in her left hand and drew the bow with both hands, aiming at a target in the distance. Pa! With a soft sound, the arrow hit the bullseye. Immediately, the maid at the side smiled and said, "Your Highness, good archery." But at this moment, Qin Yin turned her eyes to another place. She jumped off the horse and ran straight to Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu, letting her gold-rimmed boots step on the gravel ground. "Xiaoxi, you're finally here." Tang Xiaoxi held the reins and said with a smile, "Xiaoyin, Mu and I are here for some business. Take us to the medicine pavilion. Mumu is in urgent need of 2 level 10 herbs. You must help him." Qin Yin was startled. Her gaze landed on Lin Muyu. She smiled and said, "Since that's the case, let's go to the hidden medicine pavilion. I know the manager there, so you can freely enter and exit." Yes, yes. When the 3 of them arrived at the hidden medicine pavilion, they could indeed freely enter and exit. After all, Qin Yin's beautiful face was already a pass. She was the beloved daughter of the radiant prince, Qin Jin. She had awakened the god-binding Locke martial soul at a young age, establishing her position as the successor of the empire. Even Qin Jin and the previous emperor had not awakened the god-binding Locke, but among the younger generation of the Qin clan, Qin Yin and Qin Lei had already awakened the god-binding Locke. They were known as a generation full of hope. But unfortunately, the 3 of them almost went through the hidden medicine pavilion's name list. But they still could not find the dragon tendon vine and luminous nightgrass. At this time, the manager at the side said carefully, "Your Highness, these 2 herbs have disappeared for many years. They are not in the hidden medicine pavilion either." This humble servant heard that there is a place in the depths of the dragon-seeking forest called the Dragon's Tomb. That is the burial ground of the dragon clan. If we can find the dragon's tomb, I'm afraid we can get as many dragon tendon vines as we want. It's just that the depths of the dragon-seeking forest are too dangerous, so the alchemists are unable to reach there. Is that so? Qin Yin blinked her eyes that were as deep as the starry sky. She smiled and said, "Then why not?" Lin Muyu suddenly had a bad feeling. In the end, Tang Xiaoxi immediately responded with a smile. "Why don't we take the opportunity to go to the dragon-seeking forest?" At the side, the commander of the Imperial Guards, Feng Jixing, retorted sternly, "Nonsense. Even I don't know where the dragon's tomb is. Moreover, you should know very well how dangerous the dragon-seeking forest is. One of you is the heir of the Qin clan, and the other is the princess of the Seven Seas Tang sect. Your identities are so special. Stop fooling around. You must not go to the dragon-seeking forest." As he said that, Feng Jixing glared at the manager of the Hidden Medicine Pavilion and said, "I will not report the matter of you encouraging His Highness to go to the dragon-seeking forest for now. If it happens again, your head will definitely be removed." The manager hurriedly knelt and begged for mercy. "Lord Commander, please spare my life. I didn't do it on purpose. Don't kneel before me. I'm so young. I can't take it. Hurry up and get up. Otherwise, my saber will drink blood." "Yes." At the side, Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Big brother Feng, don't scare me like that." Feng Jixing could not help but laugh. "I was pretending to be so serious, but you still managed to see through me." At this moment, Qin Yin had already turned around and left the Hidden Medicine Pavilion with Tang Xiaoxi. As she mounted her horse, Feng Jixing hurriedly chased after her and asked loudly, "Your Highness, what are you going to do?" "Greetings, Father. I've already reached the level 59 bottleneck. I'm going to the dragon-seeking forest to train and break through." Feng Jixing complained incessantly. He had really poked a hornet's nest this time. This capricious princess of the empire was going to the dragon-seeking forest again. Nothing good ever came out of it, and this time would most likely not be an exception. The Zetian Palace was resplendent and magnificent. It was close to noon, and the Emperor Qin Jin was holding a banquet for his officials. The Minister of War, the Ministry of Justice, as well as the commanders of the various armies that lived in the imperial capital were all present. Qin Jin held a jade cup in his hand and said with a smile, "Come, come, come, my subjects, let's have a toast together." Everyone held their cups with both hands and treated it like a precious treasure. If anyone were to spill the wine bestowed by the emperor, it was possible that their heads would roll on the ground. At this moment, the eunuch outside announced loudly, "Her Highness Qin Yin has arrived. Commander Feng Jixing has arrived. Princess Tang Xiaoxi has arrived. And that brat, who are you? You're not allowed to enter. Imperial Guards, take him down. Imperial Guards, stand down. This is my friend." Qin Yin's voice rang out. Qin Jin couldn't help but put down his cup, a helpless expression on his face. He loved and hated this daughter of his. He loved her excellence and beauty, and hated her willfulness and unruliness. However, perhaps love was 99%, and hatred was only 1%. This was the feelings a father had for his daughter. He raised his head and said, "Let them in. Men, prepare a seat for Her Highness Yin." Qin Yin had already entered the palace wearing the cloak of the Qin clan. She smiled and said, "Imperial Father." The clear and sweet voice immediately made Qin Jin lose the mood to even be angry. She said in an amused and annoyed tone, "Xiao Yin, what's wrong with you now? You're already a 20-year-old lady. Shouldn't you learn to be more dignified? You're the heir of the clan. Feng Jixing, tell me, what is she trying to do?" Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, Her Highness, she said that she wants to enter the dragon-seeking forest again to train and seek to break through to the heaven realm. This general thinks that this is inappropriate. The dragon-seeking forest is too dangerous." Qin Yin glanced at Feng Jixing, the general meaning of her gaze, saying that he still had some conscience and didn't mention the matter of the dragon tomb. Otherwise, Imperial Father definitely wouldn't allow it. Oh, you're going to the dragon-seeking forest again? Qin Jin couldn't help but smile. It hasn't been too long since we went to the dragon-seeking forest. Xiaoyin, why do you want to go again? Qin Yin pouted and raised her palm. A golden chain coiled around her graceful body like a real dragon. She walked forward step by step and said with a smile, Imperial Father, look, your daughter's god-binding chains has already been cultivated to the limit of the 5th level. If I don't experience a battle to break through, I'm afraid I'll become a piece of trash. Nonsense. How can the god-binding chains be trash? Qin Jin's tone was a bit stricter, but when he saw Qin Yin's red eyes and aggrieved expression, his heart immediately softened. He said, Go then, but you can only go within the boundaries of the clan's hunting grounds. How can that be? Qin Yin raised her face to look at her father on the throne. The spirit beasts in the hunting grounds are too weak. Even if I kill them, they won't help me break through. Imperial Father, just allow me to enter the depths of the dragon-seeking forest to cultivate? You? Qin Jin sighed helplessly and asked, My subjects, Her Highness wants to enter the dragon-seeking forest to cultivate. Who do you think is the most suitable person to send to protect her? The minister stood up and said, Your Majesty Lord Qin Lei, the son of King Yuning and the commander of the Imperial Army, is quite strong. Moreover, he grew up with Her Highness and can be considered to be childhood sweethearts. It is most suitable for him to lead an elite troop to escort Her Highness to cultivate. Qin Jin nodded. Do you have any other suggestions? Another minister stood up and said, Your Majesty, this humble subject suggests that the commander of the Imperial Army, Feng Jixing, also lead 1,000 elite cavalry from the Imperial Army to go with her. After all, Her Highness is the crown prince and the heir of the clan. Her safety must be guaranteed. It is a pity that only the 2 of the 6 white-robed Imperial Guards can be dispatched at any time. Lei Hong is in charge of the Divine Hall and can't split himself up. Chu Chu, on the other hand, has nothing better to do. Otherwise, it would be best for Lord Chu Chu to escort Her Highness. Qin Jin smiled slightly. Then it is decided. Commander Feng Jixing, you will lead 2,000 elite cavalry from the Imperial Army to escort the princess to the dragon-seeking forest. Qin Lei, you will lead 100 Imperial Guards to protect Her Highness at all times. Do you all understand? Feng Jixing and Qin Lei knelt on one knee and cupped their fists. As you command. In the afternoon, the people outside the Zetian Palace were shouting and the horses neighing. A total of over 2,000 troops set out together, heading straight for the dragon-seeking forest. Qin Yin was filled with helplessness. She had originally thought that she could train in the dragon-seeking forest with Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu. She had never thought that it would soon become an attack by the entire army. However, she could not do anything about it. After all, as the heir of the clan, this might be the price to pay for being above the masses. Qin Lei and Feng Jixing wore the armor of the white-robed Imperial Guards and looked very spirited. They guarded Qin Yin on her left and right, while Tang Xiaoxi spurred her horse and walked side by side with Lin Muyu. In front of them, a group of light cavalry acted as sentries and left the city in a grandiose manner. Even Lin Muyu did not have the time to return to the Divine Hall to pack her luggage. However, as long as she had the burning prairie sword, she would not need anything else. After sunset, they entered the dragon-seeking forest. As they were still at the periphery of the dragon-seeking forest, everyone was more relaxed. However, the night sky was filled with stars, and the sounds of the insects coming from the forest made them feel more relaxed and happy. Next to the white tent, Lin Muyu carried the burning prairie sword and stepped into the bushes. She looked around but did not see any luminous herbs. It was impossible for there to be luminous night grass at such a close distance to Lanyan City. Chapter 83. Deep into the night, a bolt of lightning broke the silence in the forest. Following that, heavy rain began to fall from the sky. It was not easy to have such heavy rain in late autumn. Lin Muyu put on her armor, opened a black umbrella, and walked out of the resting tent with the burning prairie sword in hand. Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin's tents were further away, guarded by Qin Lei and Feng Jixing. The rain landed on the oil paper umbrella with pitter-patter. The stars could no longer be seen in the sky, and the bonfire on the ground was also struggling in the rain. Many Imperial Army soldiers wanted to keep the bonfire alive, but they had no way to do so. It was a mess for a moment. Many people who were patrolling outside on horseback also quickly rushed over and hid in the tents. Lord Lin Ji, not far away, an Imperial Army soldier smiled and asked, "Why are you standing in the rain alone with an umbrella? Quick, come into the tent to hide from the rain. Otherwise, you might get sick if you get wet." Lin Ji shook his head and smiled. "There's no need. Thank you. I'll take a look around." He was a Gold Star member of the Divine Sanctum. Even among these Imperial Army soldiers, he was already an influential figure. Moreover, he was familiar with Feng Jixing and Qin Lei. Therefore, Lin Muyu was rather free in the camp. The rain pitter-pattered and extinguished the last bonfire. As a result, the forest had already become dark. Clang! Drawing the burning prairie sword, he exhaled a small amount of vital energy from his palm and infused it into the sword. Immediately, streams of raging flames that could not be extinguished by the rain surrounded the sword, illuminating a small distance. He walked around the camp step by step. He had to ensure that there were no enemies in the surroundings. After all, it was because of him that Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin had come to the Dragon Forest. If anything were to happen to these two pearls of the Empire, he would definitely feel guilty for the rest of his life. "The tent is leaking. Quick, find some wide leaves." It was unknown who shouted, but many of the Imperial guards rushed into the forest to cut down the trees. At this moment, there was a sudden rustling sound from the right. Lin Muyu immediately turned around in alarm. Raising the burning prairie sword, she lit up the dark corner and shouted, "Who is it? I don't speak." In the darkness, a beautiful face peeled off the hood. It was none other than Qin Yin. However, she was wearing the armor of an Imperial guard. Her lips curled up into a smile as she asked, "What's wrong, you? Do I look strange?" "Your Highness, why are you dressed like this?" "If I don't dress like this, how can I sneak away?" She giggled, her beauty unmatched. "Slip away. Hurry up. Xiaoxi is waiting for us in front." Qin Yin once again lifted her cloak to cover her face. Her dark golden royal cloak was airtight. It seemed like it could also shelter her from the rain. Lin Muyu was confused. She had to hold the umbrella for her with one hand and the Liaoyuan sword with the other to light the way. Qin Yin raised her head and saw that Lin Muyu was drenched, but she was covering her head with an umbrella. Qin Yin couldn't help but smile warmly, but she didn't say anything. She knew that as the princess of the Empire, saying too much would only make her look pretentious. "You guys are so slow." Further ahead, beside a pile of shrubbery, Tang Xiaoxi's voice came. She was also wearing the armor of an Imperial guard, which made her exquisite figure look a little funny. Furthermore, she was leading 3 fine horses. She said with a smile, "You guys are too slow. Humph, next time don't let me steal horses. I was almost kicked by this fierce warhorse." Lin Muyu already knew what they wanted to do. She couldn't help but say, "Isn't it a little inappropriate for us to sneak away like this? Big brother Feng Jixing and big brother Qin Lei will definitely go crazy looking for you." "It's fine. I left a letter in the tent." Qin Yin smiled with dimples. "It's so dark. Where are we going?" Lin Muyu asked. Qin Yin muttered to herself as she pondered. The mist formed by the autumn rain landed on her long eyelashes and quickly condensed into droplets of dew. They trembled and fell one after another, adding a sense of harmony to this beauty. However, she didn't notice it. She raised her head with a smile and said, "Let's head south and avoid the marching route of the large army. We'll take a detour into the depths of the dragon-seeking forest. Don't say anything else. Get on the horses and find a place to rest before dawn." "Amen." Lin Muyu nodded. This was the only way. The 3 of them turned around and mounted their horses, heading straight south. In the end, After galloping for less than half an hour, a ray of golden light suddenly shot through the darkness behind them. It seemed to be the light of the god-binding chains. Your Highness, Qin Lei's voice came. It was indeed him. He had actually caught up. Don't run, Qin Lei shouted loudly. He suddenly raised the martial spirit in his hand, and the god-binding chains broke through the earth with a pong-pong-pong sound, blocking in front of Qin Yin. However, Qin Yin wasn't someone who was easy to deal with. She lightly opened her snow-white palm, and the same god-binding chains came out from her body, defeating Qin Lei's martial spirit one after another. She turned around and said with a smile, "Big brother Qin Lei, don't chase us anymore. Go back and wait for us. We'll be back in a few days." "No," Qin Lei said with no room for negotiation. "His Majesty sent me to protect you. I definitely can't leave even half a step." Qin Yin clenched her teeth. "Humph, you follow me every day. Don't you know how annoying it is? There's no freedom at all. Do you understand this kind of feeling? You big idiot." Qin Lei was an extremely simple and honest youth. He urged his horse forward and didn't open an umbrella, allowing the rain to fall on his body. He rubbed his head and said with a smile, "I can more or less understand this kind of feeling. However, Shaoyin, you are too important to the Empire. There can't be a single mishap. I can indulge you in everything, but this is the only thing I absolutely cannot give in to." As he spoke, Qin Lei raised his sword-like eyebrows and looked at Lin Muyu, saying, You brat should help me persuade her." Lin Muyu looked towards Qin Yin, but before he could say anything, Qin Yin blocked him with a sentence. If you treat me, Qin Yin, as a friend, then don't persuade me. I hate being stared at by a group of people all day." Tang Xiaoxi laughed lightly, taking pleasure in other people's misfortune. Lin Muyu rubbed his nose and said, "Your Highness, why don't we do this? Let big brother Qin Lei follow us alone. It'll be safer for the four of us to enter the depths of the dragon-seeking forest to train, right?" Yes, you is right." Qin Lei looked at Lin Muyu gratefully, then said, "I'll go with you all alone. I won't bring any men and horses. Your Highness, this should be fine, right?" Qin Yin's small and exquisite nose was slightly raised. She huffed angrily and said, "Then follow us, but you all have to listen to me along the way. You're not allowed to use Father Emperor to pressure me, or else you'll go back immediately." Qin Lei felt as if he'd been granted amnesty. All right, I'll definitely listen to you." Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi looked at each other and smiled. In the end, the adventuring this time went from 3 people to 4 people. That was good too. Qin Lei's strength was the strongest among the 4. With him around, it would be a bit safer. Traveling 100 miles in the night, they encountered a few spirit beasts below 1,000 years old, but they were all easily taken care of by Lin Muyu and Qin Lei. Qin Lei had seen Lin Muyu's 4-elemental imperial sword at the last Eve festival banquet, so he admired this handsome youth very much. So even though there was a great disparity between their statuses, he was still very polite along the way. The rain stopped, and the sky brightened. Sunlight fell on their bodies. Qin Yin rode on a warhorse, her whole body enshrouded in a faint fiery light. Unknowingly, she'd already used the god-binding lock's fiery strength to dry the clothes on her body. Tang Xiaoxi's martial spirit was a firefox, so she could naturally do it easily as well. As for Lin Muyu and Qin Lei, it wasn't so troublesome. The fiery energy of their virgin bodies was enough to dry their clothes. The 3 took a roundabout route south, and after a day, they finally entered the depths of the dragon-seeking forest. In the afternoon, the lazy sunlight shone on every part of the forest. Qin Lei held a map scroll in his hand, looked at it carefully for a while, then said, "According to the records on the map, we still need to travel south for about 3 days, and we'll be able to reach the legendary dragon graveyard area. However, that place is a forbidden area, and the spirit beasts on the way are also quite strong. It's said that it's been a long time since anyone has entered that place alive." Tang Xiaoxi's fire fox martial spirit was jumping on her fragrant shoulder. She giggled and said, It doesn't matter. We have a total of 4 people this time. Big brother Qinlei is in the heaven realm, and the rest are all in the earth realm. However, as long as we meet a suitable spirit beast, Xiao Yin and Mu can both step into the heaven realm. At that time, our overall strength will be even stronger, and it won't matter even if we meet a spirit beast. And Qinlei nodded, holding a war blade that flickered with lightning. He urged his horse to walk at the very front. This blade had quite a history. It was called the Thunder Split Blade, and it was said to be a mysterious grade treasured blade. Prince Yuning had gone through a lot of trouble to get his hands on it, and in the end, he gave it to his eldest son, Qinlei. It also made Qinlei one of the few experts in the Imperial City, so much so that when the Thunder Split Blade was mentioned in the Imperial City, they would definitely think of Qinlei, and when Qinlei was mentioned, they would definitely not forget his Thunder Split Blade. What kind of martial spirit does you need? Seeing that Lin Muyu had been silently hurrying along, Qin Yin tilted her head, smiled, and asked in a gentle voice. Lin Muyu was startled, and a little overwhelmed by the favor. In fact, he had seen countless beautiful women in his original world, but none of those women could be mentioned in the same breath as Qin Yin. The Qin Yin in front of him, whether it was in terms of temperament or appearance, surpassed him by too much. That kind of celestial beauty, that kind of luxurious beauty, was not something that common rouge and powder could compare with. A plant-type spirit beast is fine, and it's also fine if it's not. My martial spirit isn't picky. Thank you for your concern, Your Highness. Qin Yin couldn't help giggling, and said, a martial spirit that isn't picky? You is really interesting. Just at this time, Qinlei suddenly raised his arm in front of them, and said in a low voice, I'm afraid that the spirit beast that isn't picky has already arrived. Everyone be careful. There's a spirit beast 300 meters to our north, with a lifespan of at least 5,000 years. 5,000 years. Not only was Qin Yin not worried, she even revealed a trace of excitement. Raising her hand, she drew the sword at her waist, and said with a smile, Then let's prepare to make our move? Wait first. Qinlei's expression was extremely grave and said, It's a stone beast. Its surface is even harder than stone, and its strength is extremely great. Moreover, a 5,000-year-old stone beast is even more not to be underestimated. You prepare to attack together with me. With your martial spirit's defense, it's even more convenient to deal with this kind of stone beast. Lin Muyu drew her long sword and said cheerfully, N. Chapter 84. Roar, roar, roar. A huge rock that seemed to be grayish-white was entrenched in the middle of the valley. It was as big as a disc, but upon closer inspection, one could discover that the surface of the rock was actually made up of rock scales. This was a stone beast that was curled up together. Furthermore, it seemed to have discovered the scent of humans as its body slowly moved and let out a low roar. Qinlei held the thunder split blade tightly and looked at Lin Muyu, saying, I have also encountered a stone beast when I was training in the wild in the past, but it was only 1,800 years old. You must not underestimate the strength of the stone beast. Its movements are very agile and its claws are sharp. One strike is enough to break a 10-centimeter thick heavy shield. Furthermore, the rock scales on its surface are very thick, and normal attacks cannot break it. Later, you will attract the stone beast and I will attack. How about it? Lin Muyu waved her palm lightly, and the gourd martial spirit came out of her body, condensing into the black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall. She nodded and said, I will go first. Big brother Qinlei, you have to be careful. And you be careful too. Lin Muyu actually had an indescribable feeling of excitement in her heart. This time, the 4 of them came out to train together, and it was true that her defensive ability was the strongest. Therefore, she naturally took on the role of MT. The responsibilities of attracting aggro, taunting the opponent, and taking damage fell onto her. However, this was not a game. Once the team was annihilated, it meant death. There was no chance to revive and start over. Roar! The huge rock slowly began to shake. The huge disc separated into a head and a tail, and the head that was entrenched at the tail suddenly raised up. It was the face of an evil beast. It suddenly opened its bloody mouth and pounced towards Lin Muyu. This stone beast's body was at least a few dozen tons in weight. When it moved, the earth and mountains shook, but its movement speed was definitely not slow. Lin Muyu saw it clearly. Her left hand spun around her waist and grabbed the demon noise blade. She spat out her true energy and threw the demon noise blade out. Shoo! This hidden weapon carried a sharp whistling sound as it rushed towards the weak point of the stone beast's head. Its eyes. Roar! Unexpectedly, this big fellow was so agile that it actually moved its head to avoid the injury to its eyes. Instead, it turned its forehead to collide with the demonic noise blade. With a dang sound, sparks flew in all directions as the demonic noise blade was sent flying. From afar, Lin Muyu unleashed a demonic noise fist to control the direction of the demonic noise blade. At the same time, she gripped her sword with her right hand and let out a low grunt. Streaks of lightning crackled around her arm. Just as the stone beast was about to pounce on her, she abruptly threw out the burning prairie sword. Thunderous frenzy! Pong! With a heavy strike, half of the blade pierced into the stone beast's lower jaw, but it didn't seem to bleed. The stone beast's rock scales were at least a meter thick, so this strike didn't cause any serious damage. In the blink of an eye, the stone beast swung its sharp claws and pounced down. On its left arm, there were a total of 3 blade-like claws, and they rapidly slammed into the wall of Lin Muyu's gourd. With a pong sound, energy splashed in all directions. Lin Muyu also rapidly retreated a few steps, her face somewhat pale. With just one attack, the black tortoise shell showed signs of breaking. You hold on. Qin Lei raised the thunder-split blade and let out a violent roar as he rushed onto the stone beast's body. Both of his hands gripped the long blade, and the god-binding chains wrapped around the blade. A golden light flourished as he heavily struck down. Pong! Stone fragments flew everywhere, and the stone beast immediately let out an angry roar. A large hole had been opened on its back, and even some blood could be seen spurting out. Roar! The stone beast suddenly opened its mouth, as if it was going to swallow Lin Muyu. Huh? Lin Muyu was startled, and she hastily retreated with the falling star steps. She opened her right hand, and lightning controlled the burning prairie sword in the air. She suddenly lowered her arm, and the burning prairie sword suddenly struck down from above, carrying the power of a thunderous frenzy. A loud sound was heard as it bombarded the stone beast's upper jaw, and it immediately closed its wide-open mouth. Its entire head heavily smashed onto the wall of the gourd. Woo-woo! Lin Muyu let out a miserable groan. The outermost layer of defense, the black tortoise shell, was finally broken. The blood and qi in her body surged, and she was unable to summon her true qi to condense the black tortoise shell again in a short period of time. She could only open her arm and spit out her true qi. The orange light of her martial spirit blossomed, and a gourd flower bloomed. Poochie! A mouthful of poisonous liquid fell onto the stone beast's forehead like an arrow, and rapidly penetrated and corroded it. However, the stone beast's skin was too thick, and there was nothing that could be done to it in a short period of time. Beautifully done, you! Qin Lei brandished the thunder-split blade, and streaks of lightning burst forth and fiercely struck the back of the stone beast. He was the most dangerous person. However, right at this moment, Tang Xiaoxi held the Fire Fox martial spirit in her hand, and loudly said, "Big brother Qin Lei, be careful." What? As soon as Qin Lei turned around, he saw a black shadow flash over. Pong! That was the sweeping attack of the stone beast's tail. Under the violent and powerful attack, it immediately sent this commander of the Imperial Army flying, falling straight into the distant forest. However, Qin Lei's cultivation had after all already stepped into the heaven realm. His voice quickly came from there. "I'm fine. You have to hold on." Huff, huff, huff. The stone beast snorted, and a bit of blood had already seeped into its pair of eyes. Its blood-red pupils stared fixedly at Lin Muyu, and both of its claws flew about. In an instant, it pounced on her several times, blasting the dragon scale wall to the point of almost collapsing. However, Lin Muyu did not have much of a way to deal with this big guy. After all, his martial spirit specialized in defense, and even the destructive power of the four-elemental imperial sword was far from being able to compare to Qin Lei, who had the support of the god-binding shackles. Mu! Be careful! Tang Xiaoxi launched an attack from the flank, and the fire fox cried out loudly. However, her penetrative power was too weak, and practically did not make the stone beast feel any pain, so it naturally ignored her. This angered Tang Xiaoxi to the point of whimpering. The feeling of not having any sense of existence made the proud princess she a little unable to bear it. The true qi in her body was becoming more and more unable to be quickly activated. Just as Lin Muyu was feeling anxious, rays of golden light suddenly appeared around her body, and Qin Yin's voice came from behind. God-binding power! This was Qin Yin's martial spirit skill, and could also be considered as a support skill, increasing the target's attack power. Attack you, she said while breathing rapidly. It seemed that releasing the god-binding power had already consumed a lot of her strength. When the god-binding power entered her body, Lin Muyu could clearly feel the surging power in her blood vessels, and a feeling that she had to spit it out was on the verge of bursting out. She lightly raised her arm, and the black tortoise shell actually condensed again. True qi surged around her body, and she grabbed the spinning demonic noise blade and threw it out again. At the same time, she lightly released her right hand, and the burning prairie sword lightly flew up. Flames spouted out from her palm, and lingered around the burning prairie sword. The blade of the sword quickly spun, using fire to manipulate the sword. Furthermore, she used the true dragon essence fire this time. The dazzling purple flames lingered around the long sword, causing Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi to be a little shocked. They had never seen flames like this before. Dragon flame spiral break. She exerted force with both hands, and immediately the high-speed spinning burning prairie sword smashed into the stone beast's head like an invincible iron awl. The true dragon essence fire quickly melted the stone beast's scales, and with a bang, it blasted a large hole in the stone beast's head. Grayish-white brain matter could faintly be seen. Good heavens! This attack was really ruthless. But what shocked Lin Muyu was that the stone beast's vitality was too tenacious. It seemed to be completely fine even after its head had been blasted open. With a roar, it pounced forward, and with a swipe of its claws, it directly shattered the black tortoise shell. Lin Muyu raised her hand to grab the burning prairie sword, and hurriedly pressed her left hand against the blade to block the stone beast's next attack. It was also at this moment that a beautiful figure appeared beside him. Qin Yin carried a long sword and stood shoulder to shoulder with him. God-binding shackles surged around her. With a shout, the god-binding shackles slashed out together with the long sword. Pang! What a good Qin Yin! She actually relied on the tyrannical strength of the god-binding chains to slash back the stone beast's sharp claws. At this time, Qin Lei raised the thunder split saber and charged over again. A slash landed on the stone beast's neck from midair, and stone fragments splashed everywhere. He loudly said, "Shaoyin Yu Shaoxi, all of you fall back. Let me do it." The stone beast was still roaring, but after being continuously slashed 7 or 8 times by Qin Lei, its roars became weaker and weaker. With a crack, its bones broke, and its entire head separated from its body. No matter how strong its vitality was, it was unable to continue fighting without a head. After all, it was a stone beast not called Xing Tian. Huff, huff! The stone beast's head that fell to the ground was still breathing with all its might, while its body lay on the ground, continuously struggling frantically. F***CK. Lin Muyu held the burning prairie sword with lingering fear in her heart. She turned around to look at Qin Yin, and asked with concern, "Are you all right?" Who would have thought that Qin Yin would also ask the same thing? The two of them spoke at the same time. In the next moment, Her Highness the Princess lowered her head with a flushed face. She didn't know what to say to get past this awkwardness. Luckily, Qin Lei was more straightforward. He leaped down from the stone beast's corpse and said with a smile, "Luckily, Yu's defense is strong enough. Otherwise, we might be in danger." This time, it was really not easy to kill this 50-100-year stone beast without any injuries. "Your Highness, what are you still hesitating for? I remember that your God-binding chains only has 3 abilities, and none of them are defense type. Come, this stone beast's defense is so strong. If you can absorb the stone beast's defense type ability, it will definitely greatly increase your individual strength." Tang Xiaoxi also said with a smile, "That's right. Xiaoyin, hurry up and refine the beast spirit. Who knows, you might be able to successfully step into the heaven realm." Qin Yin was no longer embarrassed to the point of blushing. She took a step forward, and with a light chant, she summoned the God-binding chains. This golden chain was like a real dragon, coiling around the young lady's waist and between her twin peaks. It was like a guardian, but also like an attacker. It began to madly and greedily absorb and refine the stone beast's beast spirit. This stone beast's beast spirit could actually be refined by herself. But Lin Muyu didn't care. There were many spirit beasts in the dragon-seeking forest, so there was no hurry. Letting Qin Yin become stronger would be of great benefit to the entire adventurer team. Qin Yin closed her beautiful eyes, controlling the God-binding chains to enjoy this delicious meal. However, the stone beast's beast spirit was still very tenacious. No matter how hard Qin Yin tried, she was still unable to grasp the beast spirit's most essential part. Qin Yin also knew that this power contained the stone beast's most essential spiritual power, which was also the ability power. Therefore, she had to absorb this portion of the beast spirit. Unfortunately, this seemed to be too difficult. Not long after, Her Highness the Princess was already drenched in fragrant sweat. I can't do it anymore," she suddenly said. Chapter 85. Do you need help? Lin Muyu sheathed his long sword and asked calmly from the side. Qin Lei was stunned. "You can help? As far as I know. The process of refining the beast spirit is not something that others can interfere with, right? Xiaoyin, if you really can't refine the skill, then don't force yourself, otherwise you will hurt your body." Tang Xiaoxi crossed her arms in front of her chest and said, "If Mu can help, then don't hesitate." And Lin Muyu walked to Qin Yin's side, and a faint fragrance of a young girl entered his nose. His heart couldn't help but sway, but he immediately reprimanded himself in his heart. "What am I thinking about, you bastard? Is this the time to let your imagination run wild? I can't keep thinking about petty things all day long. We must be honest and be a person who is free from vulgar interests. Lin Ji, you better remember. You are an honest and confident young man." Thinking of that, his face turned red. His palm opened slightly and his true qi surged. The treasured refining cauldron shrouded down in the form of energy and quickly enveloped Qin Yin and himself. But from Qin Lei and Tang Xiaoxi's point of view, the energy that Lin Muyu summoned was a kind of true qi energy condensed body, and they couldn't see the specific form of the treasured refining cauldron. Closing his eyes, the first layer of true fire inside the treasured refining cauldron started to burn, refining the last strand of beast spirit of the stone beast. Qin Yin also seemed to feel it as her long eyelashes lightly trembled, but she didn't dare to be distracted in the crucial process of refining the beast spirit. Lin Muyu said softly, "Your Highness doesn't need to be distracted. Concentrate on absorbing and leave the rest to me." Inside the treasured refining cauldron, the beast spirit of the stone beast was howling miserably as it was refined by the first layer of true fire. But this beast spirit was really too tenacious. It was still unable to be refined even after being refined for a full 5 minutes. Lin Muyu made up his mind and suddenly shouted, activating the second layer of flames of the treasured refining cauldron. Extreme fire. The so-called extreme fire was a flame that came from the sky and was very fierce. It was ranked second among the 18 layers of flames of the treasured refining cauldron. Although it was ranked lower, It was already very powerful at this time because Lin Muyu had only comprehended the third layer of flames. If the third layer of flames couldn't refine the beast spirit, then there was nothing he could do. Ao. Amidst the miserable howls, the extreme fire quickly devoured the beast spirit of the stone beast, refining it into bits and pieces of spiritual essence, which seeped into Qin Yin's body one by one and was absorbed by the princess. Lin Muyu heaved a sigh of relief and quickly removed the treasure-refining cauldron. However, she noticed that both her and Qin Yin's bodies were emitting steam. It seemed like the temperature inside the treasure-refining cauldron was not just for show. Ah! Qin Yin let out a breath. When she opened her eyes, Lin Muyu and Qin Lei were both stunned. At this time, the expression in Qin Yin's eyes was even more enchanting. Her gaze was deep and the strange expression was as beautiful as the shining stars. Moreover, her entire temperament seemed to have changed a little. It actually made Lin Muyu feel a kind of faint pressure. This was the sign of the great disparity between realms. Xiao Yin stepped into the heaven realm? Tang Xiaoxi asked with a light smile. Yes. Qin Yin smiled, raised her left hand and lightly exhaled. This time what appeared was not true qi but pure white do qi. Once one stepped into the heaven realm, the aura in one's body would automatically change from true qi to do qi. This was a qualitative leap. In an instant, Qin Yin was extraordinarily happy. Her beautiful eyes looked deeply at Lin Muyu. You. Thank you very much. Lin Muyu cupped his fists and smiled. Serving your highness is my duty. After all, as a member of the temple, he was originally loyal to the imperial family. Although the little princess' attitude towards him was extremely good, Lin Muyu still maintained propriety. There was a difference in identity and status. Once he got carried away, then it might bring about a fatal disaster. This was also one of Lin Muyu's great characteristics. He could maintain wisdom and calmness at any time. Otherwise, it might be difficult for him to ascend to the martial god's throne in conquest. Your Highness, have you refined the stone beast's skill? Qin Lei asked at the side. Yes. Qin Yin nodded lightly, then summoned the god-binding chain's martial soul. She lightly exhaled her do qi and immediately, stone scales appeared around the golden chains of the god-binding chains. This was a defensive skill, could protect herself from harm. Okay. Qin Lei clapped his hands and said with a smile. This time we did not come to the Dragon Forest in vain. Your Highness Yin, since you have already completed your training, why don't we return to Lanyan City as soon as possible? The Dragon Forest is too dangerous. Moreover, Commander Feng Jixing should still be at the edge of the Dragon Forest waiting for us to return. We have been out for a bit too long. However, Qin Yin frowned slightly, shook her head and said, No, my real purpose for coming out this time is to help you find the dragon's tomb. If Brother Qin Lei is in a hurry, then go back first. Qin Lei was given the cold shoulder and couldn't help but stare blankly, but he didn't take it to heart. He smiled and said, All right then, I promise to listen to you. This time I will listen to you. Let's go find the dragon's tomb together. Yes, that's more like it. Qin Yin's anger turned into joy. The few of them rested for a bit and recovered their true qi and physical strength before continuing on their journey. Before dusk, they found a suitable place to rest in the Dragon Forest. It was a very dry cave and the weeds in the cave were very dry. Furthermore, the original owner was a 1,200-year-old spiritual bear, which was killed by Qin Lei with one slash. The spirit stone was taken away by Lin Muyu. A spirit stone that was over 1,000 years old was very good to be used to forge weapons, so it shouldn't be wasted. Jin Xiaotang of the Imperial Merchant Guild probably still didn't know that he was good at forging weapons. Otherwise, it would have definitely caused a ruckus again. The Imperial Merchant Guild didn't lack anything. The only thing it lacked was high-grade weapons. Those nobles, officials, and sons of rich families would wait in the Merchant Guild every day, waiting for someone who lacked money to auction a suitable weapon. Actually, over there, spirit-grade weapons were already very popular, and mysterious-grade weapons were even more popular. If he could forge a saint-grade weapon, perhaps the entire Imperial Merchant Guild would change. Qin Lei took a blanket from the back of the horse, and after laying it on the ground, he said, "Your Highness, it's very tough for us in the wilderness, so this is the only way. You and Princess, she can sleep here tonight, you and I can sleep on the hay outside." Qin smiled faintly. "Thank you for your hard work, Brother Qin Lei. Alright, where's you?" "He's outside, I don't know what he's doing." Qin lifted the hem of her skirt and walked out of the cave lightly, only to see Lin Muyu holding the burning prairie sword and quietly inspecting the terrain outside. His brows were tightly knitted, and the white robe behind him swayed slightly in the wind. He was very handsome. In an instant, Qin Yin's heart fluttered, and her heartbeat seemed to quicken. Although Feng Jixing, Chu Huaying, and the others were all handsome men, this Lin Muyu in front of her seemed to have an extra special temperament compared to them. "Oh, what am I thinking?" Qin stamped her little boots and vented her anger at herself, feeling both ashamed and angry. This princess was really arrogant and pampered. Lin Muyu raised her head and saw Qin standing under the mountain rock with a red face. She couldn't help but ask with a smile, "Your Highness, what's wrong?" Qin was stunned, and her face became even redder. "Ah, nothing. You've been patrolling outside for so long, what are you inspecting?" "Oh, I suspect that there's a spirit beast that's older, and it's of the fire attribute." "Why do you say that?" "When I was training in the Seven Stars Forest with Chu and Shaoxi, we also encountered this kind of terrain. Not a single blade of grass grew, and everything was withered. This means that there's a fire attribute spirit beast living nearby, and it's not young." "Ah!" Qin was stunned. "Then why is the spiritual bear that we just killed still living here? Logically speaking, that fire-type spirit beast should have swallowed the spiritual bear long ago." "That's hard to say." The corners of Lin Muyu's mouth curled up, and she smiled. "Perhaps that fire attribute spirit beast is just raising the spiritual bear like a pig." "I see. Then what should we do?" "Don't worry, I'll be careful. If the spirit beast really comes to find trouble with us, we'll just kill it. It just so happens that Shaoxi is about to step into the third heaven of the earth realm, and she needs a suitable beast spirit of the fire attribute spirit beast. If it dares to come, I'll be more than happy." Late at night, Qin and Tang Xiaoxi were sleeping in each other's arms. The two of them were exhausted after a day of traveling. Qin Lei was holding the thunder-split blade, and his tiger eyes were wide open as he looked at the rock at the top of the cave, standing guard 3 meters away from the two girls. As the commander of the Imperial Army, Qin Lei's greatest responsibility was to protect the heir to the empire. However, when Qin Lei turned around to look, his gaze fell upon Qin Yin's bright and clean face, and there seemed to be another kind of indescribable emotion in his eyes. He sighed, and the hand that was holding the thunder-split blade tightened a little. Outside the cave, a bonfire swayed in the night wind. The late autumn night was already very cold, especially after the autumn rain, as if it was going to be winter soon. Lin Muyu held the burning prairie sword in her arms and looked at the swaying light of the fire, her clear eyes filled with melancholy. He wondered how his father was doing. Was his old man still in good health? At the thought of this, Lin Muyu's eyes instantly became moist. She raised her head to look at the sky and murmured, "Father, brother, are you both well now? I miss you both, but I can't go back now. Brother, you must take good care of father. Don't let him work so hard anymore. When I'm not here, brother, you have to shoulder the entire Long Exile group." At this moment, a soft hissing sound was suddenly heard from afar, and it was accompanied by a scorching heat. "Is finally here." As the owner of this area, it was finally time to hunt Lin Muyu, Qin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the other uninvited guests. Lin Muyu called out softly, "Brother Qin Lei, wake up His Highness and Shaoxi. Our guests are here." Qin Lei was startled and turned around to look, only to find that Qin and Tang Xiaoxi had both woken up and were looking at him with their beautiful eyes. "Is that fire spiritual beast here?" Tang Xiaoxi was slightly excited. Chapter 86. Hiss, hiss. Flames lingered around the head of the huge beast. This was a huge beast that looked like a lizard. Its blood-red eyes stared greedily at the leaping bonfire. Wild beasts were naturally afraid of wildfire, so it seemed to have some fear towards bonfires. However, the handsome youth wearing a general's robe behind the bonfire made it salivate. If it did not swallow this person alive, this lizard would not be satisfied. Qin Lei carried his battle blade and walked out of the cave. He looked at the spirit beast hidden in the bushes from afar and smiled. There are 3 golden and 4 silver lines of fire on its head. It's a 340,000-year-old fire lizard. This kind of spirit beast is very common in the dragon-seeking forest. However, a 340,000-year-old spirit beast is very suitable for Xiao Shi to use for her breakthrough. Qin Yin hugged her cloak and walked out of the cave. Her elegant face looked even more enchanting under the moonlight. She smiled lightly and said, "A 340,000-year-old spirit beast. There's no need for me and Xiao Shi to take action anymore. You and brother Qin Lei quickly finish it off. After Xiao Shi has refined the beast spirit, we can still sleep for a while longer. Hurry, hurry." Qin Lei carried his thunder split blade and walked forward. His gaze was as if he was looking at a prey that had fallen into a trap. He smiled and said, If we don't leave the bonfire, we won't be able to lure it to attack. Let's go. The 2 of us will finish it off quickly." All right. In reality, Lin Muyu did not think much of this fire lizard. When he and Chu Yao were hiding in the 7 Stars forest, they had also killed a fire lizard. Although it was only 1,700 years old, at that time, his cultivation was still low. Now, it was completely different. He possessed the 4 elemental imperial sword and the true dragon primary fire. He did not need to care about this 340,000-year-old spirit beast at all. He raised his sword and rushed out, saying with a smile, "Big brother Qin Lei, let's see who can kill this fire lizard first." Qin Lei raised his blade and rushed forward, scolding with a smile. "You stinking brat. You didn't even say a word. You ran so fast, how could I catch up?" Hiss hiss. When the fire lizard saw the 2 approaching, it immediately spat out its tongue and quickly pounced over. Its movements were very agile, but it had underestimated the strength of the young man in front of it. Whoosh! The burning prairie sword sped over, wrapped in thick lightning. Lin Muyu had directly used the shocking thunder wild wave to greet it. Pong! Sparks flew in all directions. The fire lizard's fire breath was actually pierced through by the burning prairie sword. The sword light pierced through the lizard's upper jaw, leaving behind a bloody hole. Thankfully, it did not hit its brain. Otherwise, the fire lizard would have been killed on the spot. Lin Muyu raised her palm. Lightning chains soared into the sky as she controlled the burning prairie sword to attack from the sky. Roar! The fire lizard roared and attempted to counterattack, but it was caught off guard by Lin Muyu's demonic sound fist right in the eye area. As it retreated while screaming, its tail suddenly trembled. The burning prairie sword followed the wind and directly pierced through the fire lizard's tail, nailing it to the rock. This time, it couldn't even run away. Qin Lei laughed out loud. His figure swept across the sky, and he raised the thunder split blade. Streaks of lightning enshrouded the thunder split blade. This mighty attack must be Qin Lei's signature skill, right? Fierce thunder blade. With a pu sound, fresh blood splattered. Qin Lei's blade technique was too overbearing. He had actually chopped off the fire lizard's head from the middle. Not only that, his entire body was covered with a biting cold wind force. Suddenly, he held the blade in his hand and swept it horizontally as he shouted, "Dragon's Rush!" Blood splattered everywhere. This massacre scene was not suitable for children. The fire lizard was cut into pieces by Qin Lei's sweeping attack, and there was a faint dragon roar. Qin Lei must have the dragon force in his body, or else the destructive power shouldn't be so exaggerated. Pa! Lin Muyu grabbed the burning prairie sword that was flying over and said, "Big brother Qin Lei, don't randomly slash anymore. This fire lizard is a bloody mess. How is Xiao Shi going to refine the beast spirit later?" "Ah, you're right to remind me. Qin Lei, the martial maniac, quickly put away the blade and said with a smile, Princess Shi, you can come over and absorb the beast spirit. This 3,400 years old spirit beast should be enough for you to break through. Tang Xiaoxi looked at the bloodstains on the ground and was a little speechless. However, she still stepped on the blood of the spirit beast and released the Firefox martial soul to begin refining the beast spirit. Lin Muyu held onto the long sword and stood guard at the side. When Tang Xiaoxi reached the crucial moment, she released the artifact refining cauldron without saying a word. Immediately, flames rapidly revolved and enveloped the two of them. Qin Yin and Qin Lei didn't say anything, but they knew that Lin Muyu was helping Tang Xiaoxi refine the essence of the beast spirit. This process wasn't considered long. It was completed in less than 20 minutes. Phew! Lin Muyu heaved a sigh of relief and put away the artifact refining cauldron. Her eyes emitted a bright light as she looked at the barren fertile land and said with a smile, Shao, she has already refined this fire lizard skill. Qin Yin laughed lightly. Really? Tang Xiaoxi also opened her beautiful eyes. Her pair of beautiful eyes were sparkling as she said with a smile, It's all thanks to Mu's help. I feel that his power is helping me control the fire lizard's essence. Otherwise, with my power, I might not be able to suppress it. Qin Lei was greatly surprised and said, What method did you use to help His Highness and the princess refine the essence of the beast spirit? According to what I know, when refining the beast spirit, the chances of absorbing the skill is not more than 30%. How did you do it? Lin Muyu rubbed her nose and said with a smile, Some secrets can only belong to me alone. Big brother Qin Lei, don't ask anymore. In any case, I won't harm you guys in this lifetime. Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. All right then. If you isn't willing to say, then we won't ask anymore. Let's go back and continue to rest for a while. In another day, we'll roughly be able to enter the dragon's tomb's domain. There are more and more spirit beasts in the surroundings. We have to be a bit more careful. Lin Muyu nodded. After the few of them had fallen asleep, he still hugged the burning prairie sword and stared blankly at the sky. The Milky Way was brilliant. Everyone said that one of the stars belonged to you. However, which star belonged to him? This piece of land was called the Shattered Cauldron Realm. The only human empire was called the Qin Empire. It was controlled by a group of people from the Qin family who possessed the bloodline of the true dragon. And what was the meaning of him coming here? But after experiencing so much, would he really not have any comprehension? Those nights, when he woke up from his nightmares, what was it for? He thought of Xiangxiang, the woman who chose to die to protect him. Was she weak? No, she was actually very brave. He thought of Chu Feng. He spent his entire life protecting Chu Yao, but in the end, he died unjustly in the hands of vile people. Was he stupid? No, he was actually very persistent. He thought of Little Beansprout and Qin Xiling. These weak people were all fighting for their lives. Were they pitiful? No, they had already done their best. He thought of Zhang Wei. This unyielding man had now become a cripple. He thought of Tang Xiaoxi. The kind and pure Shao, she had completely disregarded all dangers for him. He thought of Qin Yin. This beautiful princess trusted and relied on him. He thought of Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, and Chu Huaying. It seemed that, unknowingly, he had already found a reason to continue fighting in this world. At the break of dawn, a golden ray of light fell on Lin Muyu's face. It was unknown when he had fallen asleep, but he still held the prairie fire sword in his hands. His head was slightly tilted outwards, maintaining a vigilant posture. But in the end, he still fell asleep. Qin Yin carefully held the sword and knelt beside Lin Muyu. She tilted her head and looked at his sleeping face. She seemed to be interested, but she couldn't bear to wake him up. She knew that Lin Muyu actually didn't sleep for too long. He only slept after dawn. Even Qin Lei was snoring, but he didn't. He was awake the whole night. The late autumn morning was very cold. Tang Xiaoxi tightened her cloak and raised her head with a smile. Qin Yin made a gesture to lower her voice. She laughed softly and said, "Be quiet. Let him sleep a while more. Tang Xiaoxi smiled slightly. She opened her bag and found some cooked meat. Then, she carefully raised her hand and used the power of her fire fox martial spirit to reignite the bonfire. As she boiled water on the iron pot, she also sliced the cooked meat and threw it in. They couldn't eat good food in the wilderness, but to be able to drink a pot of boiling meat soup was already a kind of enjoyment. Accompanied by the zhi-zhi sound of boiling water, the aroma of meat filled the air. Lin Muyu couldn't help but sniff. His stomach was empty, and he was very hungry. But when he opened his eyes, he found Qin Yin looking at him with a smile. He immediately blushed and said, "Your Highness, are there bugs on my face?" "No." Qin Yin's face turned red. "You, get up and eat." Even though he only slept for a short while, Lin Muyu already felt the true energy in his veins fill up again. He had already returned to his peak state and could face any challenge. Tang Xiaoxi scooped a bowl of meat soup and gave it to him. After eating the soup and meat, he still felt that it wasn't enough, so he ate another bowl. This made Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin a bit embarrassed. They wanted him to eat more, but Lin Muyu and Qin Lei were both big eaters. In the end, the princess and the princess only ate half a bowl each. "Why don't you eat more?" Lin Muyu asked. "Could it be that you want to slim down?" Qin Yin didn't quite understand what slimming meant, so she said, "The women of the empire usually insist on eating only 50% full. That way they can maintain their beauty. The maids in the palace taught me this since I was young." Lin Muyu sniffled, thinking that Qin Yin's words were enough to shame many of the foodies in modern society. On the side, Qin Lei ate and drank to his heart's content. He raised the thunder split blade and said with a smile, "Today we can enter the dragon graveyard area. At least this is the area marked on the map. You, the next spirit beast's wild beast spirit, is yours." Lin Muyu said resentfully, "Then Big Brother Qin Lei must guarantee that you won't go crazy and randomly chop. At the very least, you must ensure that the spirit stone in the spirit beast's body is intact. Otherwise, you'll be like the fire lizard and even the spirit stone was destroyed by you." "Ah, I will. You've reminded me." In reality, things like spirit stones could basically be bought with Jinin coins. Therefore, people of noble birth like Qin Yin, Qin Lei, and Tang Xiaoxi wouldn't care about spirit stones. After all, spirit stones could only store 50% of a spirit beast's spiritual power. The wild beast spirit, on the other hand, could store 100% of the spiritual power. That was the cultivation treasure that Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the others fancied. Lin Muyu was different. To her, spirit stones were equivalent to a weapon's guardian beast soul. They were all money. She was a commoner in this world and extremely poor. She had to be frugal, diligent, humble, cautious, meticulous, far-sighted, virtuous. Don't bully the young for being poor. Strengthen the divine temple's sparring masters, and so on. Chapter 87. On the fourth day after entering the dragon-seeking forest, the terrain became more and more dangerous, to the extent that it was already impossible to pass through on horseback. They could only lead the war horses and walk step by step through the winding mountains. The road had long been cut off, so they could only rely on Lin Muyu and Qin Lei to wield their weapons in front to open up a path. On this day, they once again encountered 3 spirit beasts that were over 2,000 years old. They were all taken care of one by one, but they still did not encounter any spirit beast that Lin Muyu was interested in. Since they wanted to step into the heaven realm, then they must have a spirit beast with a long lifespan as a sacrifice. The surrounding plants became fewer and fewer. In the blink of an eye, the forest in front was already bare. A formless aura of death enveloped the surroundings. Qin Lei could not help but frown. "We seem to have already entered the dragon's tomb area. This strong aura of death is enough to make normal people unable to survive, really." "Everyone wait a moment." Lin Muyu suddenly stopped everyone, then took out a few small bottles of medicine and said, "Everyone drink 1 bottle." "What is this?" Qin Yin asked curiously as she held the medicine. Concentration powder. Lin Muyu smiled and said, to be more specific, it is a first-grade concentration powder, a level 6 medicine, can keep our minds clear, making us immune to all poisons. The aura of death in the dragon's tomb should also not be able to infect our bodies. Concentration powder is only a type of resistance medicine. It must be consumed before the poison takes effect. The effect can last for 3 days. It is up to you whether you want to drink it or not. As he spoke, he raised his head and drank a bottle of concentration powder. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and drank it as well. Qin Yin pulled out the cork and sniffed it. There was a fresh smell and she drank it in one gulp as well. Qin Lei was the last person to drink it. As the commander of the Imperial Army, he had to be on guard. Although he was already quite familiar with Lin Muyu, he still had to be on guard. He could only drink it when he saw that Lin Muyu and the others were fine. The concentration powder turned into a cool feeling and flowed through her body. Qin Yin could not help but smile in surprise, as expected of a first-grade medicine. This feeling is really different. Tang Xiaoxi smiled lightly. Let's go. Yes, yes. Qin Lei carried the thunder-split saber and said, You walk in front and open up the path. I'll bring up the rear. Everyone be careful. We're about to enter the Dragon Tomb's area. Lin Muyu nodded. She knew that Qin Lei still didn't have 100% trust in her. But this couldn't be blamed on him. Clang. He unsheathed the burning prairie sword and slowly exhaled his true qi. Immediately, the blade of the sword turned red. He urged his horse forward slowly, following the path of the canyon and entering the range of the dragon's tomb. Looking up, he saw that the cliff was extremely steep, forming a thin line above his head. There was even the cawing of crows, making him feel uneasy. On the ground, he could even see pieces of white bones. They were not dragon bones, but human bones. Someone had been here before, and they were already dead. Qin Yin held onto her treasured sword and carefully looked around. Her pair of beautiful eyes were filled with vigilance. The cold wind blew, causing the gold-trimmed dark blue cloak behind her to slowly flutter. Tang Xiaoxi followed closely behind Qin Yin. The fire fox was already squatting on her shoulder, ready to attack at any time. Meanwhile, Qin Lei was at the back. Golden iron chains appeared around the thunder-split saber, and the god-binding chains were ready to be unleashed at any time. Smoke lingered in front of them. Very soon, the war horse let out a neigh and became weak and powerless. It was already unable to bear the weight of its rider. Lin Muyu hurriedly got off the horse and said, We can't go on. The miasma here is too heavy. The war horse can't go in. Let's just tie it here. We'll go in. Qin Yin and the others nodded. They got off their horses one by one and walked forward on foot. After walking to the end of the canyon, there was a completely different scene inside. There wasn't much of a deathly aura within the dragon's tomb. Instead, it was full of spring, and hundreds of flowers were in full bloom. A clear river flowed from the canyon, and the roars of wild beasts could be heard from afar. It formed a stark contrast with the deathly aura outside. However, there was one thing that hadn't changed. They could still see piles of bones along the way. Just what kind of thing killed these people? Tang Xiaoxi was a bit flabbergasted. She opened her right hand, and the fiery red ropes that lingered around her wrist loosened one by one. In the blink of an eye, it became a long whip with flames lingering around it. This was Tang Xiaoxi's weapon, the smelting flame whip. It was the treasure passed down from her grandfather, Duke Zhonglan. Lin Muyu looked at it silently for a while. She pointed at the skull of a skeleton and said, His skull has been pierced through, but it doesn't look like it was pierced by a sword or a spear. The wound is too small. It's not even as thick as a finger. Then what could it be? Qin Lei was a bit speechless. Let's continue walking. Everyone be careful. With a wang sound, Lin Muyu summoned the martial spirit gourd. With a bit of force, the black tortoiseshell and dragon scale wall were both successfully activated. She carried the burning prairie sword and walked at the very front. All of a sudden, a so-so sound came from the ground. A black vine disappeared in a flash, as if it had never appeared before. What was that? Lin Muyu quickly rushed over and directly used the imperial sword technique from afar. The long sword blasted open the ground with a pong sound. The soil and grass flew up, but the vine was nowhere to be seen. To the right, be careful, Qin Lei shouted loudly. A vine pierced over with a so sound. It was like an arrow that left the bough and went straight for Qin Yin's face. There really was something, and it was of the plant type. Pong! Qin Lei went berserk. The thunder-split blade fell down like lightning and chopped the vine into pieces. He extended his hand and pointed to the south and said, "This spirit beast's main body is over there. You go over." Lin Muyu did not care so much. The enemy was in the light, and she was in the dark. This was the worst situation. Tang Xiaoxi was exceptionally smart. She did not need anyone to say anything, and immediately used the Firefox's skill attack. With a huala sound, a flame rushed out and burned all the bushes in front of her into ashes. Lin Muyu quickly passed by, and with a raise of her finger, she controlled the long sword in the air to sweep across the ground. The sword chi strangled through, and all the remaining bushes were turned into dust. Behind the bushes, the main body of the sneak attacker was finally seen. It was impressively a big black tree. Furthermore, the trunk and branches of this tree were all twisting. Every branch was like an arm, and when it twisted, it made people's hair stand on end. Qin Yin could not help but squint her beautiful eyes and said, "What the hell is this?" Qin Lei was experienced and knowledgeable. He felt a chill in his heart and said, "It's the Forbidden Mother Tree. Furthermore, it's the Forbidden Mother Tree from 700 years ago. Be careful. This kind of Forbidden Mother Tree's arms can extend and retract, and its attack power is shocking. Furthermore, the Forbidden Mother Tree only appears in places where there are few people. Its name comes from the Forbidden Mother in the legends. It has countless arms, and it is very terrifying. Everyone be careful. Let's go." Lin Muyu was already rushing forward, and the wall of the calabash formed a perfect shield to protect him. The Forbidden Mother Tree's hundreds of arms turned into thorny vines that rammed into the mystic tortoise shell. They shattered inch by inch, and it also caused his blood and chi to churn, and he was almost injured. As he rushed forward, he opened his hands, and flames lingered around his arms. He used the fire sword to control the prairie fire sword, and it turned into beams of sword chi that killed around the Forbidden Mother Tree. Kacha! Kacha! One after another, the Forbidden Mother Tree's arms were cut off, and green juice splashed out. Qin Lei also attacked. The thunder-split blade turned into streaks of lightning that wreaked havoc around the Forbidden Mother Tree. At the same time, he cut off the vines, and the god-binding chains danced around him to protect him, preventing the Forbidden Mother Tree's thorny vines from hitting him. Qin Yin gritted her teeth, and with a shout, she attacked. The god-binding chains broke out of the ground and turned into a golden chain that smashed towards the Forbidden Mother Tree's main body. But who would have thought that the Forbidden Mother Tree could actually move? The roots quickly moved underground and cleverly dodged Qin Yin's martial soul attack. Tang Xiaoxi took out her fire fox and shouted, "Use fire attack!" Lin Muyu cut off at least 1,000 Forbidden Mother Tree's arms, but she realized that there were more and more of them, and they were quickly surrounded by the Forbidden Mother Tree's vines. She couldn't help but shout, "What's going on? The more I cut, the more there are. Be careful. The Forbidden Mother Tree's vines can regenerate." Ah! Only then did he see that the Forbidden Mother Tree's branches were constantly flowing with green juice, and new vines were quickly growing. No wonder they couldn't be cut off. Whoosh! The countless vines in the surroundings suddenly retracted, and quickly surrounded Lin Muyu. No matter how he struggled, he couldn't break free, and Tang Xiaoxi's flame attack didn't have much effect in a short period of time. Jiji. The Forbidden Mother Tree was actually shouting, as though it was mocking him, and countless vines turned into thorny vines that pierced towards him. Qin Lei roared, and quickly raised the thunder-split blade. Countless lightning rays rose up and ruthlessly smashed onto the forbidden mother tree's main trunk. Pong! Green juice splashed out, but the forbidden mother tree was still regenerating. This thing's life force was not ordinary. Lin Muyu was surrounded by millions of vines and couldn't break out. He could only brandish his iron fists to disperse the vines that were about to attack him. The walls of the gourd could no longer withstand it, and the mystic tortoise shell and dragon scale wall collapsed one after another. Pong! After a ray of golden light, Qin Yin's treasured sword smashed onto the tree trunk with the power of the god-binding chains. She flew up to attack, and a huge gap was blasted open on the tree trunk. She saw a blood-red heart-like thing pulsating, and she was astonished. "What is that?" Qin Lei said loudly. "It's the tree spirit. Destroying it will destroy the forbidden mother tree." Just as Qin Yin was planning to follow up with another slash, a cluster of vines suddenly attacked from the right and smashed her away. Qin Lei hurriedly went to save her, but his leg was suddenly pierced by the thorny vines. Blood gushed out like a fountain, and he lost his ability to fight for a moment. Tang Xiaoxi was also entangled by hundreds of vines, and she could only protect herself. Lin Muyu saw everything clearly from the cage. The true dragon essence fire surged in his palm, and he controlled the sword through the air. The prairie fire sword instantly spun at high speed. Dragon flame's spiral break. Pong! The spiral impact from the outside directly scattered the vines. He leaped out and held the long sword. With a violent shout, he roared in his heart. 7 luminaries profound energy. Come out! This was the first time he called out the 7 luminaries profound energy on his own. Immediately, a vigorous force surged in his high, but there seemed to be another kind of power that was restraining the 7 luminaries profound energy, not allowing him to call it out forcefully. But this couldn't stop him. Lin Muyu quickly took out the artifact refining cauldron and launched the earth fire in the air to burn the power that was trying to resist him. He shouted in a low voice, "Do you still want to struggle, bastard?" As the strength of the 7 luminaries' profound energy rapidly surged into his arm and poured into the longsword. Suddenly, a strike that changed the color of heaven and earth fell on the tree spirit from the sky, and the fiery light instantly engulfed everything. Chaotic Luminary plus True Dragon Primary Fire. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.